apologize.
Yeah.
It gives me to ask questions.
Yeah, there's some process. The mayor, well, sorry,
Yeah, we're good.
they asked. I think they asked multiple times.
Yeah.
For anybody online, but I think they asked anybody in person, and then they asked anybody online.
We could,
Good, bro.
it's gonna be a minute. We could start the meeting if somebody has Teams on their computer.
I do have.
Yeah.
There's
There's a couple folks online. So
But I
that would be-
can't.
Yeah, that's gonna be the problem.
I
Maybe,
have Teams too.
would somebody be able to just put on your, just say on the meeting that we're just running like a few. It's loading now, so.
You have it up. Yeah, we just let it go.
Yeah.
Start the meeting here, right, and then roll over. Well, John, you think we'll be able to?
I hope so. Let me just see.
Good evening, everyone online. The meeting will start in a few minutes. We're having some technical difficulties, but we'll get started here shortly.
It's made for radio.
Yeah, I was just gonna say radio, face for the radio. Yeah, I can see the camera.
Anybody can talk online if you guys can hear them.
I can see the video.
Sorry, I guess I'm on. Do it.
Do you see somebody online?
I'm on mine. But I get your mic, because I. Oh, yeah, your mic. It's your. Oh, it. On the computer.
I left. Oh.
Yep, it was definitely Andrew. All right, thank you everyone for your patience. Can somebody online confirm that you can hear us? Christy?
I can hear you.
I can actually hear you.
Matt said that he can hear us. Okay. All right, everyone, I'd like to call to order the Board of Trustees regular meeting. Today's Tuesday, August 18th, 2026. The time is 7:14 p.m. Macy, can you take roll?
Mayor Sterling,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Miller,
Here.
Trustee Donahue,
Here.
Trustee Giblin,
Here.
Trustee Jocelyn,
Here.
and Trustee Kennedy.
Here.
Thank you. I'd like to note for the record that Trustee Larson is absent this evening.
All right, thank you, everyone. Trustees, I would like to add a discussion item onto the agenda. I would like to put it after 6.4, the teens conversation, so it will become discussion item 6.5, where we will be talking about Town Manager Kane's dismissal from, well, him taking a new job, and I would like to talk that through. Are there any concerns with that?
No concerns.
Okay. So we'll just note that we will have that discussion after the teens discussion today. All right, on to consent agenda. Any questions regarding the consent agenda? Any motions?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Casey?
Mayor Pro Tem Miller,
Yes.
Trustee Jocelyn,
Yes.
Mayor Sterling,
Yes.
Trustee Kennedy,
Yes.
Trustee Giblin,
Yes.
And trustee Donahue.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fabulous. All right, everyone, we are on to staff reports. Town Manager Kane, your staff report, please.
Mayor and trustees, it's been a busy few weeks. I think for me, you don't have a staff report from me in this report. You have the staff ones. If you have questions for us, we're happy to answer. I just want to just take a moment and express my gratitude to Netherland. But if you have questions for us, I am happy to answer.
Any questions from the trustees to staff? No? How about some shout outs? All right. Like there is some really cool things that have happened. Macy, all the things like that you hold down between liquor licenses and events. But also want to acknowledge that it looks like we had a death in the community, an unattended death that BCSO had to handle. And so it's always just a moment of pause. Nikki, Rink Link Trail. Wow. That is so cool. An ADA trail.
Has
Um,
anybody been up there?
No, I'm
It
going
looks,
to though.
it looks great. It's not done, but it looks great.
Oh,
It's
my
really,
goodness.
it's coming together. It's beautiful. It's really starting to get to that point where you can be like, oh, I see.
Like,
This
we
is,
built
this is gonna be cool.
Yeah,
So,
we built
Yeah,
trails.
it's really nice.
It's unfortunate having to deal with the graffiti. I would love to know if there's a way that we can support that in the future. It seems like it's become more of a problem over in the skate park. Cass, I hope that one of these days you do not longer have the headache of those electric chargers. John, and if Britt's on, if there is any way that we could be of support, because that's now years long process. And if you need us to just convince somebody that this is really needs to be fixed, please let us know.
Jennifer wrote a sternly worded letter the other day, and we're hoping for some outcomes there, but the state is also going to help us try to replace that charger. So we're going to just keep trying to push on that.
Okay. If you need more strongly worded letters, believe me, anything at the end of a Jennifer, receiving party that's receiving that, they should be scared. But if you need more support with that. And then I also noticed that Grace has got the Siren grant. Fabulous. How did we move forward with that? What ended up happening?
We're going to apply for the same grant we applied for last year.
Okay.
We have a little bit of work to tighten it up. It's due on the 31st, but we'll have it done well in advance of that.
Exciting. Thank you.
She didn't get it. We're applying for it.
Right.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
the one that we didn't get last year, the same program, and we should score pretty well in this one. We met with them and had conversations about our last application. So we're going to be having a town talk. Is it? I want to say it's Wednesday, but it's this week, and we'll make sure it's pushing out on the website and our social channels. And it's to talk about that siren, and any feedback from the community is super helpful so that they know that this is a big need for our community, is to get that siren in place.
We might score higher because we had a real fire.
Correct. And I think
Okay.
the other thing is, if people can't come to that, the other thing is if they can email me, townadmin@netherlandsco.org, we will take those comments and incorporate them into the application. So that would be wonderful.
Fabulous. All right, let's go on to Board of Trustees.
Just a
reports.
sec.
Oh, go ahead.
Congrats. It's good to see some staff getting trained, like wildland firefighter trained.
Yeah, that's been a really good thing. Our streets crew and our parks crew both are doing that. Some of them are getting their red cards, which is a more advanced kind of training that allows them to work with fire more directly, but they're all have been working on those kind of fire mitigation certs so we can do it safely and in coordination with the efforts that happen with Netherland Fire as well.
Mm.
Um,
Anything else?
Just a added shout out. I saw that Joss has the Permazine
Yes.
application scheduled for the first week of September. So it's really exciting. So nice work, Josh.
Oh, yes. Those were the two other ones. The Alpine and Wildwood, if anybody, I know our community is small, but if you drive by it, that is some crushing it in terms of getting those drainages more up to par. We never had anything before. So that was amazing.
The streets crew has been working 12, 14-hour days in a couple of cases just because we have limited equipment and limited time to fix some of these ditches and culverts, but they've been doing a great job. All our crews across the board have been working, and it's been downsides to a hot, dry summer is a hot, dry summer, but it also has given us more time to work on infrastructure. And so Andrew's crew has been doing that, Josh's crew and Nikki's crew, and I think it's showing around town.
Yeah, a lot of good work happening in Old Town on the streets and the culverts and
And,
on many of the streets in Old Town. So
and Andrew, the fact that you guys are still like doing work and then also doing those tours, I mean, you've been doing those pretty consistently, it feels like, for the last several months. Yeah?
We try to do at least one facility tour a year open to the public.
You've done way more than that though, haven't you?
I think for smaller groups, yeah.
Okay.
Organized groups, yeah.
Yeah.
But then one totally open to the public.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and if there are any of us who have not been on that, I highly recommend it. It's really fabulous. Okay, anything else? Staff, you're killing it. Keep going. All right, let's go on to mayor and trustee reports. My report is kind of just doing all things associated with helping to support John in terms of Big Springs egress, also with the Eldora acquisition, and then just wherever he seems to need my support. So those are some of the things, nothing really publicly facing, although we did have our manager and our town manager and mayor talk several weeks ago. The big topic there was Big Springs egress as well. And so we continue to have conversations on that whenever folks pull me aside. All right, next up, Mayor Pro Tem Miller.
Yeah, just been attending the regular Eldora meetings with Mayor Sterling and Jennifer and Town Manager Kane on working on that stuff. And then with ProSab, as was already mentioned, the new Wrinkling Trail is starting to look a lot closer to completion. So I definitely recommend going over there and taking a look when you get a minute. It's still some big piles of road base that still need to be distributed, but and then building a little bit on the success of that, Nikki has an idea for a little skills area to build around the actual rink in the rink parking area. This would be kind of something that would work with the shred and Simba programs where we're getting some of the little kids out learning how to ride bikes. Right now they spend a lot of time on the soccer fields down below. It's not the best venue for the little kids who are just learning. And so the goal here is they can ride on the rink trail now over to the rink in a safe way. And there'll be some little skills course over there. So we're gonna have an open public meeting there on Thursday, August 20th from 3:30 to 5. So basically right after school. And so if anybody wants to go over there and, put some input, see what it's all about. 3:30 to 5, there'll probably be a little bit of food and just a little bit of community gathering and see what it's all about.
what day?
Thursday, August 20th. So spread the word.
Thank you. Trustee Donahue, thank you for your report. Is there anything you'd add to it? Okay, great. Trustee Kennedy?
Yeah, only thing I have to report is that this is likely my last BOT meeting as I will be moving out of the community. I just want to thank everybody on staff, all of the fellow trustees, everybody in town for entrusting me and letting me be a part of this. It's been a really wonderful experience and I'm going to miss it. But I will be rooting for Netherland and watching from the other side of the divide and definitely coming back to visit as much as I can. So thank you all.
Thank you, Trustee Kennedy. We're going to miss you.
Thanks,
and,
Matt.
And your family.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt, for running in the election and stepping up. It's been great having you. And I think hopefully the move for you and your family will be good to be near family.
Thanks, Billy.
Hopefully your son will like the soccer league there better.
I will see.
All right, Trustee Jocelyn.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to kicking it back up with the Planning Commission next Wednesday is our meeting. So other than that, I have nothing to report at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Trustee Giblin.
The next potential BZA meeting will be in October. And so it's just quarterly. So nothing scheduled at this point, but that'd be the next potential one. And then the peak-to-peak Health and Human Services meeting are every other month, so that one will be second week of September. I did go, my brother told me about this show we had here Thursday downstairs. It was I wish the word had gotten out more, because it was a movie about the casual enormity of Adam Palmer, who was a fella who lived in Eagle County and really did a lot of amazing things there, starting different sustainability programs, in the town of Eagle with Holy Cross Energy. He started Energy Smart Colorado, which is a big, green building type program for the state, and just a really remarkable person. It was super inspiring, and we had folks there from Mountain 2030. Chris Steinkamp, who's a CEO for them, talked to him about some of our sustainability goals. So it was really cool to be there. I wish I'd found out about it 2 hours before it happened. I wish we'd all known about it, because it was really good, inspiring.
Do they plan to do it again?
It was kind of a traveling show. The guy
Oh.
came through from the filmmakers out of Alma, and so I don't know.
I
Yeah,
didn't
and
hear
they're on a
anything.
tour. They're going elsewhere, but they'd been to like Breckenridge, Boulder. They're doing a pretty good circuit, but
I
it'd be good to
didn't-
get it back. So
Didn't
we could
hear
talk to
anything
them.
about it. It's unfortunate.
Same.
Okay. All right, folks, we're going to go into our discussion items. A point of process that I want to be explicit about is that we do have some presenters that are for each of these topics. They will have the ability to be pulled out of the public comment kind of process. Public comment, you usually have about 3 minutes. There are particular presenters for some of these topics. I suspect for the NDDA structure, I saw him, Andrew. Yeah, okay, there he is. If he would like to be able to speak to that topic, and also I know Stephen Lefevre is going to want to speak on the Teens Inc. So just again, as a point of process, they're going to be able to kind of speak to and present to us outside of the public comment process. Okay. So to get us started, Town Manager Kane, can you introduce to us 6.1 NDDA structure?
Sure. Mayor and trustees, this is a discussion item to think through some of the governance and organizational considerations that exist between the Board of Trustees, the Town of Nederland, and the Downtown Development Authority. My staff report lays out several approaches for how the two organizations might work better together. And I think the question that we're asking you is just what organizational structure best supports the town and NDDA in advancing downtown priorities with clear roles, effective coordination, and appropriate accountability. I have given you a staff report. If you have questions about it or anything for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions for Town Manager Kane regarding the NDDA structure?
Thanks for laying out a few options.
Mhm. Let me make sure I'm not forgetting you. Trustee Kennedy, any clarifying questions?
I don't have any, no.
Okay. It doesn't look like any clarifying questions around here, the board. Okay. So at this point, I want to invite Andrew. I'm assuming that you would like to say some things. Yeah, so go ahead and come up to the mic. Again, you're outside of the 3-minute timeline. You're not going to be held to that. But at the same time, I'm going to rein you in if you start really going.
Can I just point out one thing? John Thompson's here. He's a member of the DDA. So I don't know if he'll have something to say, or Kate. So I don't know if they'd get the same freedom.
No, this is a privilege given to Andrew.
Thanks. Thank
All
you.
right.
And,
But yeah.
Members of the board, for the record, I'm Andrew Dewart, Chair of the NDDA. And my comment on the discussion item tonight. First, I wanted to share that a lot of what I had to share, I had emailed, and I hope everyone had a chance to read it. But I think we're in agreement. My recommended position is to support stronger accountability and closer administrative coordination, but ask the BOT to complete priority setting and conduct a genuine joint work session before moving towards dissolution. So thank you for taking up this discussion. I want to begin with an area of agreement. The staff report correctly identifies the need for clearer project scopes, budgets, ownership, staffing, commitments, schedules, procurement responsibilities, and long-term maintenance plans. The DDA should support those improvements, and I believe they would make both organizations more effective. My concern is the sequence. 2 weeks ago, the BOT reviewed a proposed 2027 DDA work plan that included First Street activation, public realm and accessibility, cleanliness and shared services, wayfinding and parking, vacant commercial sites, business engagement and placemaking, and a Main Street America evaluation. The BOT then asked advisory boards to provide priorities by September. Tonight, before that process has been completed, the board is being asked to discuss organizational structure, including possible dissolution. The DDA has been waiting for a joint work session with the BOT for multiple years. We have had informal coordination and discussions with town staff, but we have never had a joint collaborative session focused on selecting and implementing shared priorities. I own that I should have appeared before the BOT sooner and made that point more clearly. At the same time, I do not think we should conclude that collaboration has failed when the formal collaborative process has never actually been tried. I also acknowledge the DDA's own challenges, operating with 3 vacancies for much of 2026, missing meetings for lack of quorum, and having applicants leave after only a few months has hurt continuity and delivery. Those problems need to be corrected, but appointments, recruitment, onboarding, and retention are shared governance responsibilities. They do not establish that the DDA's statutory purpose for financing capacity lacks value. I support combining options A and B, retain the DDA's down focus and financing mechanisms while improving administrative integration, reciprocal accountability, project management, and grant writing capacity. My request is that we first clarify what Netherland wants accomplished, select 3 to 5 shared priorities, assign responsibility and resources, and give that coordinated model a fair opportunity to work before considering dissolution. I think that's the gist of it. Yeah. And if you got any questions or.
Yeah, so any clarifying questions for Andrew? I want us to be able to ask him any clarifying questions.
I have a question. I'm curious how the DDA has interfaced with what's happened following the fire. Was there any interface there, and how in the process of that?
I've personally reached out to Stephen Tebow and his property manager multiple times to say, we're here available to be a resource. I did not get follow-up engagement from Tebow. As far as the local businesses, Kate has spent a significant amount of time on business outreach. So, I think, I've been open and available to hear what we can do to help Tebow. And, kind of on a bigger picture, the DDA being available to listen to how we can help, public-private partnerships is like the top priority. And if, I've sent emails and phone calls and it's not reciprocated, there's nothing I can do. Yeah.
You did help we're instrumental in getting dumpsters to help clean up the site in the initial phase of cleanup as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
On one of your documents, I think it was page 4, and forgive me, like we didn't make those public, but you had said that a kind of a continued partnership requires executive oversight. Can you describe what that means?
Yeah, I think I think that both the town, one of the huge challenges that I see for town staff and volunteer boards, and even an executive director that's dealing with a whole host of issues, including bookkeeping, et cetera, is that I feel like there's no question that there's lots of different projects to tackle. It's just kind of goal setting, and then the capacity to project manage. Let's say, in a joint work session, we decide on 3 to 5 core priorities. And then one of my biggest recommendations would be tasking, hiring not necessarily another layer of governments, but an independent project manager to say, the BOT in collaboration with the DDA have agreed that these are the 3 to 5 core priorities to focus on. And they might even be outside of the DDA realm, but, in an effort to help or to kind of bridge that gap, hiring administrative project management capacity. I think we need systems, really, is what this comes down to, is like, what are the goals, and how are we gonna know where we are on the path to achieving the goals? Who's checking in on that? Is that gate now at the DDA, or is it with the town engineer? Are we waiting for a deliverable from them? Or is it now on a private property owner who's, got legal counsel doing something and they're not moving? So and if we're talking 3 to 4 big projects, like the level of project management needed to execute and stay on top of, and it's not that anyone's not trying the best they can, but if like truly big projects, transformative projects in the town need a level of project management that I don't think, I think we've all acknowledged, like, if it's town staff, it's taking away from core services, right? But this is part of like what may come up in a work session is,
Okay.
Yeah.
Because so where you would see that as an extra hire
Yeah.
outside of this process, that wouldn't be duties with the executive director.
I mean, some of those duties could include the executive director. And I mean, that some of those duties would be, however, like, I feel that we need to look in reality what is the executive directors has been asked to do in the past and what she's currently doing, and see, okay, is this realistic? Because I know, like, running a construction company, like, I have a person doing accounting and bookkeeping, administrative assistant project manager, superintendents, and they're all different people. And of course, we're doing a lot of different things, but to say to one person, hey, you're going to answer the phones, do the books, keep up with this other person's emails, and go out and meet all the subs and order the materials. Like, is that realistic? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But that's, I think, the conversation we need to look at,
Okay. Any other clarifying questions for Andrew?
You kind of touched on this already a little bit, but on top of, the bylaws that you guys have adopted and the MOU that we've set up, like, what would you envision you would want to get out of a joint work session? Like, kind of on top of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least speaking for myself, probably the ED and some of the board members who have been on the longest, it's like, what are the core priorities that we, as the town, the BOT and the DDA working together, want to focus on? Because I could like pick things out of a hat, that are on this long list of things that we have to do, but that's not responsible, because there's like, I think we would all agree that X is more important than Y, and so I think that would be the most important thing, is to come up with the core priorities. And then what's our method of execution? And then how are we going to know, when are we checking back in? Is that, 6 months? Is it a year? Like, along the way? And then where do we, like, to understand where things get gated? And that's another challenge where that I've experienced in the past. Like, we'll get to a certain point, and then there's not really a clear mechanism for it to go back and be like, okay, this is stalled. not at any one person or for any, it's kind of stalled because we've taken it as far as we could. Right? Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Just so I don't forget about him, Trustee Kennedy, any questions that you have for Chair Dewart?
No.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
Anything
Yeah.
else?
So, for my part as mayor before, I'm sorry that we didn't make that meeting happen. Me and Jonathan talked about it and it didn't happen. So, but we, did the MOU and the bylaws, but we didn't forge ahead and plan, like we could. So I appreciate the work you're putting into like these ideas. And I think the project manager idea, it does make sense, one way or the other, because these projects, what the things we did talk about or think about that we'd use DDA money for downtown improvements are, our construction projects, so they're significant. So
Yeah. And it could be grant writing. Like, I don't know if professional grant writing is in necessarily the executive director's wheelhouse. I don't know if it's in anyone in this room's wheelhouse, but there's a lot out there that's available. And just, ultimately, I view, and I think I share this with many members of the board, that like the DDA is not some other thing somewhere else. It's within the town of Nederland, and we're integral. So, if funding a grant writer, but that thing, whatever that grant is, overlaps somewhere, maybe not entirely in the central business district, but it's all integral to, Nederland itself. Not to get too vague, but that's that. Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you, board.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
thanks, Andrew.
Kate, I do want to give you the opportunity to go ahead and address this as a presenter, just so we can ask you clarifying questions as well. Is that okay? Yeah. Come on down.
Hi, I'm Kate Massengale. I'm the Executive Director of the DDA. Those of you that don't know me. Do you want to just ask clarifying questions now, or do you want me to just do my quick public comment?
If you were going to do your public comment, you can do it now, just so that we can then ask you questions.
Sure. So I do want to piggyback just what Andrew said, high level. We are integral to working together. That's the way I've always seen this. And what that looks like, I like how we're having this conversation right now of what's on everybody's plate and how do we make things happen? Because my public comment is I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And my hope is that the work of the last 2 years on the MOU and the bylaws keeps evolving this conversation and helps us get to the point where we are actually implementing these meaningful improvements in the community. Because like Andrew said, that is where the longtime members hope to see us. And that's where we've been working to get, was to talk to each other about what makes sense for us to forge ahead on. So that's my 2 cents. So now I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any clarifying questions for Kate?
What are your thoughts on Andrew's 3 ideas, options?
He's right about so project management. That's again, we need to look at what it's going to be and how this is going to work across all organizations, or whatever the structure becomes, or however we land. And then that will help drive that, because you're right, there may be some outside need to support all staff in making these larger projects like sidewalks, like all of these things happen. With regards to grant writing, I have a large background in grants, and so I'm comfortable working on that piece of things, but I'm not town staff. And so that's where we have to work together, and we successfully do, but I can't take the lead on that the same way, because it's not really the DDA's place with this structure. Though we are happy to be working together. I'm working with Cass and Britt on things, so we always are connected, but it's not formal. And so I do think some of looking at that could help. So I definitely stand by that as well. And I do want to get back to with the Caribou Ranch, or with the Caribou Fire, not Caribou Ranch. a lot of what I did was researching on grants and the ways that the DDAs could help respond. So I was doing a lot of background so that we were prepared to have whatever negotiations or discussions that were helpful to people. So I do want to add that in. And so we kind of just tried to be there as a support, as well as Downtown Colorado Inc., which is our kind of our group that we work with. Did I answer that enough, or is that?
The only other thing on grants, because
Yeah.
Andrew mentioned them too, and like just having, when I first started working with Miranda, as we talked about getting grants, because like managing the grants is actually more work than writing the grants and getting the
Absolutely.
grants. So like that's
Yeah.
kind of, and that's kind of more
And-
project management and work along the way, and it's takes time.
And my
Almost
20 years of experience is in managing federal grants and managing state and local funded grants. So that doesn't scare me. That's what brought me to this job, is to do these harder projects that aren't as fancy, but now we've seen like how important things like the sidewalks are in this community. That's input that we're getting from the business owners. And, you know, we are building that relationship to get more of that direct one-on-one feedback about what they're really interested in. And so that's definitely been something, you know, we've been working on there. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Nailed it. You
Okay.
answered the question.
Did I get it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just wasn't totally prepared to speak too much, but I am welcoming this conversation. I appreciate what Manager Kane put into the packet for you all to discuss. But like I said, my hope is that we can continue evolving together and pick that project and pick those things and go after it.
One of my questions, and I realize I should have also asked Chair Dewar, is that, you know, the last joint session that we had in our direction over the past couple of years has been focused on the sub-area plan.
Yep.
And it's very similar to how we interact with the PC, the Planning Commission, is that the Planning Commission generally knows like what we would like to focus on, and they offer up the to-dos. Like they said, we recommend this as number one, we recommend this as number two. And that has what I feel like we've like been asking for the, you know, the past couple of years. So what I'm trying to figure out is where, you know, one board sort of executed, why with the NDDA has it been so hard to get that?
So thank you for that question, because I didn't really understand what that disconnect was, and you put it well. Like now I'm seeing about the Planning Commission versus the DDA. I think it really was that we felt like the MOU and the bylaws were a better way to come together and then have, like Chair Dewart said, a work session so that we weren't going back and forth, that we were just, this is what we're going to do. I think if you want that, we'll do that. Like, that's not a problem, because we have the business communication surveys that we did this spring. You know, there's definitely the data to bring you and to bring to the DDA, to bring to you, you know, go through the process. So if that is what's desired, that can definitely happen. It's just, I think what we all thought at the time, and there's been different people in different roles, so it's just more been coming together in that work session style to just get it together, you know, talk about it all right there in the room, and then get our direction and marching orders and kind of move forward. That was really what had always been. So it wasn't on our radar that you really wanted us to come with something. We were hoping for that work session. So if that's the direction, I think the DDA would be happy to do that. Yeah.
I'll come to
No,
the
you're
mic.
gonna have to come to the mic.
So I think the matter is just which priorities, like, right? The sub-area plan is huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And because you all are closest to the data and the surveys and the businesses,
Yeah,
you're going to be the first to have the best recommendation.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
That's why.
Okay.
Okay.
Truly, that's awesome feedback. That's what we need to be able to talk to our boards. So if that's part of what this comes out of this, I think we are prepared to do that based on the data collection that we've been doing this year and the sub-area plan as our plan of development.
Okay. Any other clarifying questions for Executive Director?
Well, thanks, Kate.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yep, no problem. Okay, let's open it up now for actual public comment. Folks who have a public comment can come to the podium and they have 3 minutes to speak. Is there anyone in the room who would like to speak on this particular subject, NDDA structure? Come on, I see you. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. There's no peer pressure. Just kidding. Okay, fabulous. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'm gonna go online. Macy, help me. I did not bring my glasses. Oh, I have it right here in front of me. If there is anyone online who would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand so we can grab you. All right, I'm not seeing any. So we'll bring it back here to the board for conversation, discussion, and potentially direction. Who wants to go first?
I guess I'll go.
Go for it.
I kind of agree with you, Mayor Sterling, on the role for me to sit here personally and recommend what the business district should do. I don't really feel like I have the authority to say. I mean, I do represent the community here as a trustee, but that's different than what would be best for the businesses of the town. And as far as the downtown goes, I was on the town board before, and we had some back and forth, of course, with the DDA at the time, and the awkwardness of having one person own such a huge amount of town that's been now, when we lost one building in a fire and it cost us 30% of our tax base for the businesses, it was really struck me of like how fragile and how barely of a downtown we even have. And it's no fault of anybody who was on the DDA, but it's like that we still have this town that's just this downtown area that's just, it seems to me it's barely there. And as not owning a business in town, I feel like for me to jump in as a trustee and say, this is what I think the business district needs to do, considering I can't influence the private owners of the businesses really. Like I would rather the DDA tells us what they want to do. So I do feel strong. I do feel like I'm not the right person to direct the businesses in town. And I would like, that in the last 10 years, I don't say the downtown, I mean, we had some unfortunate tragedies in there too, but it hasn't the signage, there's some signage, I guess I can say, but I wouldn't say that the efforts of the DDA, maybe it's happening behind the scenes and I'm just not aware of it. But from what I've seen, the businesses have done a fantastic job of keeping it together. I mean, totally, my deepest, respect for you guys for keeping it together after the fire and whatnot. But as far as the DDA as a group, what has the DDA done that merits continuing it? It's not clear to me as someone who lives in town and sees it and walks around. I see the signage, but I'm like, wow, in 10 years, is that what's been done? I don't know. So I'm a little, it's nobody's fault, like I said, but I feel like it's the awkwardness of the situation or something else has made it so that there's not a lot to show for it. So I'm struggling with it. That's my main thing. I'm struggling with it.
That's okay. It's okay to feel the struggling. Other thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna sentiment a little bit that Trustee Donahue said, the NDDA is unique in that it serves a different population compared to our other boards. But it suffers from a lot of the same challenges that our other boards suffer from. It's a volunteer board, there's turnover, you sort of get a lack of commitment, but it has a different impact than some of the other boards. And Nicole, you brought up the planning commission, which has a big impact on how our town functions, and those people are volunteers. For whatever reason, the planning commission has had a lot less turnover than pretty much any of our boards, like that, even though it's the one that takes the most effort and is sort of the most grueling volunteer board. people stick around for it. And I think because it's meaningful work, and it impacts our entire community. I wish people felt the same way about the NDDA, that it does impact our whole community. And so I guess kind of where that leaves me is, I think, I don't think there's any disagreement that a well-functioning NDDA would be incredibly beneficial as a board. And that should be our goal. The question is, like, if there is questions of functionality, whose responsibility is it to correct that? Which I feel like falls to us. And it's maybe a little bit hard to know what to do. But it does seem like, from, the reports and excellent assessments that Andrew has given us, feels like maybe a lot of the correction is maybe either in place or being put in place. And for at least for now, I feel I'm willing to give it a shot and say, okay, like, let's see if we can make this work better than it has. So that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. I'm not sure why it feels like there's a lot at stake with the NDDA. Like, it's just like, I mean, they're the only board that has a significant budget, and it does have a big impact on our town, obviously on the downtown. So it kind of feels like this is an impactful decision. So.
So, one of the things I'm really looking out for over these next couple of years is, where do we have like just overly complex governance structures for the size that we are? We're a tiny town. We're only 1,500 people. And I really raised the question, and just looking at all of our advisory boards, like, what is the right structure to make us successful? And I don't know if, for how tiny we are, I'm just raising the question, if it makes sense to actually have an NDDA board. Because I think, as someone had said, it's, you go outside of that and basically it's the rest of the town, right? It's not that much of a more of a perimeter. And so, do we benefit from more of a consolidation? Asking the question, like, does it need to continue? The things that, and again, I want to say, Andrew, thank you for the reports and for your thoughtfulness of just crafting those documents. Like, again, like, I really am just respect, like, actual respect to you for pulling that together. And when I, read through it, of pulling together the project plan and the project reporting and executive oversight, and I think to myself, goodness, that is a lot. That is a lot for one person. That is a lot for a board. And then I also ask, why hasn't it happened yet? Kind of a question. Like, I know that the NDDA board is also, I think, as Mayor Pro Tem Miller, as you said, it's hard to fill with the positions. There's a lot of turnover. That worries me. And I think, from a consolidation standpoint, are we better to pull those folks toward, like, the BOT or the Planning Commission? Do we get more, I don't know, like, folks, one less board to potentially have to fill, and we can route it to boards where we are also, don't exactly have a lot of people to pull from. So I think of it from, like, is this an opportunity to think about the complexity that we have? Can we reduce it? And can we start to route those folks towards other boards, other projects? I also look at it from a town staff standpoint, and how much time it has taken our town staff, from a financial perspective, John's time, all those things. And I think to myself, like, if we want to be that opportunity in that place of employment, reducing the amount of time that they're spending outside of regular business hours is also, it's a component. It's something I'm thinking about, because I want them to get back to their families. And if we can route this work in other ways, potentially that's just questions that we need to ask. So those are all the things that I'm thinking through. And, if I were to, the whole sub area plan, I bring it up again just because like that, I remember that being very explicit direction. And it's been tough to, I guess, continue to watch and think that, well, it's just been tough. Thinking that that was the direction, and then there's confusion, and we'll own it on both sides, right? The BOT maybe wasn't as explicit as they should, but that sub area plan was like, that was it. That was a huge component of our comprehensive plan, and what we wanted the NDDA to seriously focus on in the infrastructure of getting that built out. So those are all the things I'm thinking through. Anything?
All right. So if you'd asked me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and 4 years ago, I would have said, let's disband them. I was all for that. It was very toxic. And with some just changes in people, it's become less toxic. So I think more professional and with the potential for being more productive. I think it's our own dynamic between the BOT and the DDA hasn't helped. As it's at least been one factor in retention. And then I think people getting on who just didn't really understand the scope of what they could do as NDDA board members, and so it didn't last long. So had a couple of those, and so I lean now to with I think more function for one thing on the board. Is that there'd be more integral, that we'd work together more, that maybe because the staff, or the town manager, and more of this retain the DDA with greater administrative integration. To me, that would be a better fit. I think disbanding it, in my opinion, will actually do the opposite for town staff. It'll put more on their plate, not less. And so, I mean, I think it's been hard because they're kind of trying to wear two hats, because officially, the DDA is a separate thing, but that's what town staff, mostly John's had to step in, and Miranda before you, and maybe do more than we would have thought. But I do, if the DDA goes away altogether, I do wonder, unless we put, employees in place to focus on the downtown, that this would potentially create more work for staff. I do think, I mean, we have kind of a, we don't have people just lining up to be on all the boards. So the idea of like more business owners being dispersed around the boards is a good idea. Like, I do like that part of, like, if the DDA were to not continue, the question is, would they? I don't know. What's the incentive? I don't know whether there is or not, whether, DDA members care about sustainability or Parks and Rec, or, if it's more focused just on the business. And so to me, they are kind of the professionals in that they are business owners or associated with businesses. They are one of the most professional of all of our boards, even though it hasn't always, been delivering like we'd like, in the way that we'd like. But I think, when it comes down to it, that they are really business people who have either own or are affiliated with downtown businesses. So they're kind of the experts on the subject. So more so than many other boards, in my opinion. So including the BOT.
Trustee Kennedy, any comments?
Yeah. I'm just thinking if this is the right time to be considering disbanding, or if this is something that, even if being considered, should just be saved for maybe not, right before budget season with everything else going on. And with the Caribou Center, hopefully getting something moving sooner than later, if over the next handful of months, keeping it as is with some hand holding would be easier on town staff, and keeping the status quo going a little bit. That combined with just hearing Andrew's compelling plea in a way to keep it going for now. makes me think that maybe it's not the time to consider that.
Thank you, Trustee Kennedy. I want to acknowledge it's a hard decision, especially when we've got like our friends in the room. Like this is the burden that we carry, right? Of making sometimes these very difficult decisions. No time is a great time. I want to state that very clearly. Like no time is ever going to be a good time to have these tough conversations. So just want to acknowledge that this is tough all the way around.
Okay.
I mean, no time is the right time, but not every decision is the right decision. So I just want to make sure we make the right decision.
Yeah, and I don't want time to alter that good decision. But I don't want perfection to be the enemy of good either. But I wonder, is what we have now good? Is it good enough? And I kind of fall back to Topher's and Lou's comments about, I'm not really the expert in that. And I wonder, to those who are supposed to be benefiting from the NDDA, is it good enough? And I don't know. I mean, I think looking at John's options, I like them all for different reasons.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm kind of struggling.
So part of what we're due tonight is to give the board direction in terms of
Right.
how like we would like to move forward. I call into question, do we need an NDDA board in general? And I think like what I hear several folks coming up is like, what would the businesses say? What would the businesses say? Absolutely, sign me up. Like the NDDA has been they have got to stay. There is no question.
Well, I wonder, like, are they not participating because things are going well? Or are they not participating because they're frustrated? No,
I think some of them don't even know they're in the NDDA.
Yeah.
Like not a group. They don't even know that they are.
Right.
There's that.
To whose fault?
Right. Well, the NDDA's, maybe arguably. Yeah.
Well, but as I said, like, if it's not working, like, ultimately, I feel like that's our responsibility. Like, in some ways, to sort of be like, the sort of course correcting should have happened a long time ago and not, I mean, I'm glad we're doing it. But I do feel like, there's been some course correction, but we haven't given it a chance to run its course to see if it helps. And Maggie, I get your point, Mayor Sterling, that like, do we need an NDDA? And I don't feel like I can answer that question, but I'd be willing to give them another shot, not with this new structure and new channel of cooperation in place. And see if we can like get some functionality. I mean, there's no question that we should be able to get some functionality out of this. So.
Luke, are you suggesting like John's options A or B, or like what does this really look like? Like how involved are we going to get? And I'm curious, do we have the time to commit to ensuring that we're doing the best for them in the first place? Or are we just going to muddle it up and make things worse?
I also want to just point out that there could be multiple steps and we pursue multiple options simultaneously. Sure, we could move forward with some sort of meeting or at least allow the NDDA to craft what they would recommend as their project scope. And also we can also evaluate what are the implications? Because as it's written in the staff report, it says return with financial, legal, and organizational information necessary for the board to consider that option. Because Trustee Giblin, you said, well, what if it adds more staff capacity? Well, I would like to know that from staff. I would like to understand. Yes, it would probably require us hiring someone that's focused on economic development. But then we can have that town-wide, not just for the NDDA. And there may be other incentives that we just haven't thought through. And so could we potentially pursue both inquiries or at least get more information beyond what we have today? I would also love to know what business owners are saying about the NDDA. Not just the few that are in this room, but I would like to know what, business owners across the community say. And so I think we still need some more information. Thoughts?
What's the best way to hear from? I mean, what are our thoughts, or do we actually need to be asking Kate and Andrew? What's the best way for us to hear from the members of the actual district, the business owners in the actual district?
Town Manager Kane, what would you suggest?
The DDA has done a little bit of survey work, and I think that would be available to you, but I also think we could either use the town talk format and invite them to some kind of event like where we could really make sure they get here. So like an open house or something like that. I think that'd be a really good one. I also think that we could probably figure out a way to talk to a good majority of them just through email lists that we have and just trying to get some written feedback just to make it as easy as possible for folks because we are still in the summer season. So that would be my only concern is, they're working busy days right now. So,
And I'd be willing to send that email directly.
yeah, that might be the most effective tool.
Okay. Could we be okay with that, getting some feedback?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to hear from them. I think that's important.
Would we also be open to just seeing what the implications are to dissolution? Because again, there's financial, legal, organizational things that are put here. I don't even have a good understanding of what those implications are.
I think so. I think we should probably examine all the options
Just
deeper,
dual
so
track.
dissolution being one of them.
Yeah, just dual track as many options as possible.
What is our,
Sorry.
that's all right. What are our general thoughts on the differences between John's option A and option B? I mean, I get there. I mean, there's some overlap there, but from my perspective, option B seems a lot more like, would the NDDA director become a town employee kind of direction versus option A is more stay the track, but try to keep the MOU. I'm not sure if that's what we're.
I don't think
talking
that's
about,
even
but-
legal, is it?
Yeah, it is. Longmont does it.
Yeah, I think the thing is there's
Yeah, it's legal.
the challenge with number 2, which is I think what you stated, is that it would be a town employee. The benefit would be that they're speaking for the town. So they could act as a project manager for the town, which is one of the biggest challenges we have right now because they have no authority to speak for the town. However, the challenge for that is that the town manager has, depending on the day, half the town is reporting directly to the town manager. And so that structure is something that needs to be very carefully thought through. I think it can work and I think it can be an effective relationship as long as it's under general supervision and not requiring close supervision. If it is something different, that would just need to be taken into account from a capacity standpoint.
And see, that's like the opposite of what worries me, is that it becomes more of a drain on staff when it's not clean and sort of differentiated.
I could see the benefit would be that you'd have a more clear, they would do staff reports more like a staff member does now on these updates. I think they'd be more tied to the strategic goals of the strategic plan. And then there would definitely be some benefits and advantages. I think the other thing, and again, this is just kind of a problem with the system. When you have a volunteer appointed board member that has to oversee staff and they're also doing their job and trying to make sure everything's happening, I think that just becomes it not disjointed. That's not the right word because everybody's trying really hard to make that work. It creates it's easier to have it more in the structure.
So if the district, say the district director, manager, becomes a town employee, and so it's another charge for the potentially for the town administrator, but or are they not potentially available to do with the other things that are needed by the town?
I'll
Yeah.
tell you, one that's been effective is Kate has recently started working at Town Hall at one of our front desks. And that has been nice because she's able to interface more directly with town staff. And she's there and she can interface with the public, and she's almost downtown really. So I think that structure has some promise, and we could suss it out a little bit and come up with I think it would really require like something like a scope of work or some kind of document like that talks about how that would work. But I think in either option 1 or option 2, that could continue. I think having that person available and more publicly facing is really helpful.
So there's also, I hear you when you say that there are just structurally, and this is like why I'm raising the question, like, do we need this board in general, is because your executive director does have to be managed by a volunteer board, and that is already hard. Like, I know what it's like, with us and John and the rest of the staff, like it is hard, but we're also paid for that, the big bucks. But so that structure is difficult to begin with. And that's kind of what option A would continue. And option B would be potentially bringing in town staff. However, like, I also just want to bring it back to this idea of, would we be better served by someone focused on economic development across the board for town, not just focused on the central business district, but looking at the town as a whole?
I think that there's a strong case for that. I think we could become what's called a Main Street community, which is a nationwide program that brings more revenue, more different kinds of sources of money that could be brought into the downtown. That could happen with the DDA too. That's not mutually exclusive, but I do think having an economic development role like that would be very helpful. The other thing I think that sometimes happens, this is just my professional opinion, I think the DDA sometimes gets involved in activities that are better intended for a chamber of commerce and not for a DDA.
Like the concert series, just to be explicit.
Yeah. And I think that when we look at that, even beautification to some extent,
right,
those are really important things for the town, but they're not really part of what the DDA, they are part of what the DDA can do, but they're not really what it was designed to do. And so I think if you had a different structure that had some flexibility there, that will allow both of those activities to happen, it might allow for more effective use of resources.
So how do we feel about giving direction to John to sort of explore almost, sorry to do this to you, but almost what, like, both option A, B, and C? Like, I personally would like to know and understand the components of option C and what all that entails and what are the impacts, because again, there are impacts that we may not like be fully respecting and appreciating. But also, like, okay, if option B, but not just retaining the DDA executive director, but also rethinking just like what might be the best structure in general, just for what you said, from an economic development plus a chamber of commerce, all the things. And then further, like, option A is around, okay, if we move forward, like, I think the next first step would be NDDA would love to have your recommendations for tackling the sub-area plan. How do we feel about that as a board?
Well, guess what I'm getting to in my mind around this is that it's sort of the real question here is yes or no on 3. Do we evaluate that dissolution or do we not? And the evaluating it doesn't mean we're doing it.
Exactly.
So I think investigating what that would look like, and is there a better possibility, would be part of that. Not just what are we getting rid of, but what are we doing instead would be interesting to know. And how would it benefit the businesses? The side of it that I feel like is important within the evaluate the dissolution is what do the businesses want and what do they think? And I do not know. And I don't feel I can make a decision. If we were to make this an action item and vote on it tonight, I wouldn't know what to say. I'd say, no, I can't even vote. I would like recuse myself because I don't even know how to vote on that. But having that information of what that would look like and what something better would look like may allow us to move forward, all of us, because we're all in it together, really. The businesses are what makes this town. So I feel like that is our big question. More, I don't want to create this workload that's includes all 3 of those. If it's like what we're really doing is saying, what would that look like? What would that dissolution look like?
So do you think then, like, part of how we would move forward, I mean, that's actually kind of encompassing already like an option 2
I mean, to evaluate the dissolution includes all of those things.
Yeah, it
really.
really, that's what I'm saying, is
Yeah.
like, it's a little bit of option A, B, and C. Are we comfortable with that? Are we okay to give town staff that direction?
Well,
Ye-
I guess, go ahead. Actually, go, Matt. Sorry.
Was that you, Trustee Kennedy?
No.
No, oh, I think it was Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
Oh, sorry.
option A a little bit just feels like that's what we're gonna do anyway, right? Like, I mean, as we evaluate all this other stuff, like that's kind of what we have in place right now and we're trying to currently do. And so I don't feel like that needs a whole lot of evaluating other than this is our comparison against which we're going to measure other alternatives. Option A is like, okay, this, if we basically leave the NDDA as we have adjusted it to be, then
Except a sub-area plan. Give us
Right.
a plan.
right. But like, I guess there's no option where we don't at least choose option A. You know what I mean?
Yeah, short
Right,
of
like-
dissolving them tonight,
Yeah.
option A is kind of implied.
Well-
This is just a discussion. We can't take an
Yeah.
action.
Well,
Right.
I'm just saying like,
I'm not wanting to, so yeah.
it's this mic, don't, don't feel bad. That's why I'm back here. Anyway, I guess my point is that that's sort of like the benchmark comparison against keeping the NDDA, changing it, or dissolving it is sort of like the three choices. And so we're more considering, okay, what does it look like if we dissolve versus comparing it against option A as a decision to keep the NDDA as close to what it is right now. And so in my mind, one of the main differences there is, does the NDDA director, manager, whatever that role is, become a town employee or not, is sort of the main differentiator between A and B. And then what does it look like for some other option that is not having an NDDA? Which feels like a fair thing to move forward with.
One thing about an economic developer, like I'm looking at a map of the district, there isn't much commercial, there is some, but not a ton of commercial activity that actually happens outside the DDA. So it's already, the district is pretty much, I mean, really, if you look at the map, it's crazy where it all goes. You know, you got, and you know, the vets on the DDA now, the Eldor used to be because of that building is farther away, the fire department was, it goes all over and it kind of almost hits most of the commercial real, you know, businesses in town. So the economic developer theory really is almost all the work's happening in the district anyways.
Economic development can also be affordable housing, you know, business,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
so it's much broader. Just
Yeah.
in terms of like a map, it's, you know, broader in scope as well.
Sure. Yeah, but the business part, not so much.
Yeah. Except, Wolf Tongue.
Yeah, presently, yeah. I mean, well, actually,
Andrew, Trustee Jocelyn, any last words? And then we need to wrap this
Yeah.
conversation up and give direction.
I appreciate all of your time and mine.
I do too. I appreciate your time.
I think ultimately, I just really think it's important that we hear from business owners. I can't emphasize that enough. If they feel like the DDA is supporting them, awesome. I'd like to know what they think we should do with options A, B, and C. And I think that our language out to them should clarify those options and see where they are with feeling support or not. I don't want to, I think it would be a disservice for us to not be effective with the information that we're getting from them. So I would love to help any way I can with getting feedback and ensuring that our business owners are heard.
Yeah.
Okay. So to be clear, the direction that we're giving is we're going to make contact with business owners. This is part of, if I'm to take Trustee Donahue's words, this is an evaluation. We're like evaluating a wide swath of things. One of them is feedback from businesses, what the dissolution looks like, what potential alternatives look like. I've heard bits and pieces of this that people want to hear some of that. Is that fair characterization?
I guess I could say I could simplify mine based on what Trustee Jocelyn said. I think that would be really what we should do first. And then if that, because if the businesses are saying that DDA is delivering exactly as needed, it's a huge part of our success, we couldn't have done it without them type of response, then I don't think we need to investigate further in the dissolution.
Okay. So feedback first.
Yeah, and I'd like to see I'd like to see our time on that as opposed to time doing the study. I think that that's important. I'd love to see all of our attention like lasered onto that to make sure that we're getting engagement from every business owner that's in the DDA.
And how are we engaging them again? Was that
Well,
made clear? 'Cause
email chain. I think we have a
What if we
listing.
do a town talk and an email? Like we'll just hit both points.
And
Yeah.
make the email kind of high level and general. I mean, otherwise I'd like to see what goes out before it goes out personally, but like as a trustee or, you know, yeah, I mean, I actually would.
I mean, what if the business owners tell us that we don't want, like maybe things aren't perfect now, but we don't want more oversight, more admin time, more people getting into it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I just would like to hear their feedback.
Okay. Can we give direction then to create an email of some sort? If there are questions in that, the board, send it out to the board. And do we think that we can return our feedback relatively quickly within 48 hours? If there is anything that we want Town Manager Kane to consider? Can we agree to that?
Nope, I need more time. I got a lot. I'm heading to a conference, 48 hours. What are we?
This won't,
This seems super fast. That's all I'm saying. Like we're
well,
doing it so we can just start. When's the town talk?
It hasn't been scheduled. That just came up during this conversation. One of the things I was thinking for the email is I could just convert the staff report, which is already public document, into something appropriate for that. So it asks the same questions and have the same background information. If you guys are comfortable with that, I could still send out the draft so folks could look at it and then we could go from there.
Yeah.
Or
just use what
Yeah.
we have right here.
yeah, kind of, and we'll just change it.
Yeah,
format-wise.
just change the format a little bit.
I mean, is that the best way, or should this go on to the DDA itself to like find out if the businesses support it? Is this the town staff's best use of their time?
If it's an email like that, we have the list. And one thing that might be nice is it creates a buffer. So folks, you might get different responses if we're just generally collecting information than if the DDA does.
Yeah.
But I think it could go either way.
Okay.
I would rather have that as well. There is a little bit of a psychology thing if you're giving feedback directly to the thing. And as Mayor Pro Tem Miller said, this is our responsibility if something needs to be course corrected. So
Are you, just to clarify, comfortable with me changing this staff report into an email, contacting the DDA, and then we'd schedule a town talk? We have the siren one coming, and I think we want to make sure that one is prioritized, but then we could schedule another one in the next couple weeks here.
mhm.
Okay.
All right, we are going to move on. 6.2, Water and Sewer 10-year capital improvement plan. Now things are going to get spicy. Mr. Bliss.
Okay, sorry about that. Bear with me for a second here. Okay, Mayor, Board of Trustees, thanks for having us here tonight. Tonight, we're going to be presenting a draft 10-year capital improvement plan for our water system and our wastewater system, as well as presenting some of the results from our asset management work that we worked on this year, thanks to direction from you earlier this year to set aside some of our water distribution improvement funds to do this work. I'm joined here by Julie Kaler, who will be presenting the first part about asset management. Sorry, one second. I just want to give some context here. This is a follow-up to our last presentation, which was an overview, providing background of the infrastructure that we're talking about. Tonight, we're going to be talking about our draft 10-year capital improvement plans. And then in the following meeting, we're going to be talking about draft water and wastewater rate projections. The reason why we're talking about capital improvement plans, it's a major factor that influences rates moving forward. So we wanted to present that first. Throughout this is really to start a discussion with you to ultimately inform the 2027 budget setting process. Now, we're going to start with the asset management work and then move into the capital improvement plans, and I'll be turning it over to Julie now.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you, Mayor and Board of Trustees. In brief, I'm Julie Kaler. Yes, Julie Kaler. I have about 23 years of work as an engineer in the water industry. In my career, I've been a consultant, and I've also worked in a municipality in the Public Works Department. And in fact, Andrew and I used to work together in a previous career lifetime. So looking back on my career, there are two main takeaways. I believe in sustainable infrastructure, but the reason I'm here tonight is because I also believe in in-house asset management. And in the next several slides, I'll talk to you about what that means and what we've been working on with Andrew and his team to benefit the town. So for asset management, what is it and why is it important? I'll talk about the benefits of using in-house resources. I'll go through the steps we have taken in the town to implement an in-house asset management plan. And then what to do with this asset management plan, the asset database, once it's established. So why is asset management important? Managing assets in a public works scenario helps to manage risk of failures. And so we take a look at when should an asset be repaired or replaced so that it does not fail and impact the community. By that, we are able to maintain levels of service to our communities so they have the trust, safe, clean, reliable drinking water every time they turn on the tap. And when you flush, it goes away safely and environmentally friendly. An asset management system provides ways to talk with communities, elected officials, because it uses data. It brings in experience, but we have data to back up ultimately what we are saying. It can influence and have an impact on budget planning, rate and fee setting, and you can use your asset database to help improve your capital improvement plans and projects. So here's the benefits of using in-house resources. The town can save money by using staff and reducing consultant support. You can keep the knowledge about the infrastructure in-house. It's an opportunity to engage town-wide. You never know who's going to know the thing about the thing. And by collecting information either on site or having meetings or talking to different department people, you can engage utility-wide and get the most information out of folks to populate the asset database. Ultimately, asset management is a foundation for long-term planning for the utility. And I'll go back to item 1. It can save money.
Julie, just as a point of process for me, how far does your part in the presentation go?
Slides, maybe 6 more.
6 more? Okay. I'm wondering if it's possible just to sort of honor your time is because we have all of this stuff and like the board has to read it ahead of time.
Okay.
Is there anything that you would like exactly like those graphs I'm actually like very interested in. I'll allow the board to ask if there are any more direct questions other than what's here in the what we can read. I'm actually really interested if you could skip to those graphs and really detail for us like the data and the details of these things, because that's like what I think is like sort of the meat and potatoes that we really need to walk away from. And I'm not quite clear on all of those graphs. Is it possible for you to start there? And so we can dig into it? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the trustees have already read this before. If there's any other questions that you guys want to ask about that stuff, but I'm guessing too that you all would like to jump into some of these data pieces. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Some of the outputs from the asset database are these graphs. The first one that we would like to share is a pie chart showing the relative percentage in terms of total replacement cost of each of the utility areas in the town. A utility area is a unique set of infrastructure, like your raw water system. Okay.
Yeah.
And so when Andrew first looked at the graph, he says,
Can't believe our water distribution system costs so much.
So that accounts for 47% of our total cost.
Yeah, and just to take a step back, so we had several workshops that she facilitated with town staff that we looked at every single thing we own, starting at the creek, moving forward, everything that costs more than $5,000 or $3,000, and said, when was it installed? How much does it cost to replace? What happens if it fails? What are the environmental impacts? What are the operational impacts? What are the public health impacts? And so going through that full list with staff, and then she provided kind of the valuation based on industry best practices, based on all those assets we listed out. How much does everything is worth?
Wow.
And just a quick question to clarify that. So I see that the pumping stations and the water tanks are separate from so the distribution system is just the pipes.
correct.
And does that include the hydrants as well as part of that, or are the hydrants separate or not significant enough to matter?
Hydrants can generally go within the water distribution. It does include your pressure reducing valve vaults, but it's largely the pipelines.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, should I go any more questions about the pie chart? Like what else is in there? What else do you notice? Would you like to ask anything about the other slices?
So Andrew, you were surprised that the water distribution system is so large. When I first saw that too, I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Like we just have a lot of pipes running through, but what is it because we've got like a bit of inefficiency, or is that the right number, but you were still just shocked?
Julie's got experience with other communities that can touch on that.
Okay.
I don't think there are obvious inefficiencies leading to pipes that lead nowhere or do nothing. I just think the town has a lot of water distribution piping.
And I mean, do we have more than we should for a town our size, or is it just is there complexity in the way that the town is laid out or something? Like, I mean, I know like trying to get water out to Big Springs is a long ways.
I think one factor is that our water system is bigger than our wastewater system. We have more water customers than wastewater customers. I think that's part of it. But correct me if I'm wrong here. My understanding is for most utilities, the water distribution system and the sewer collection system rise to the top four in terms of value. That's pretty common.
Okay.
I agree. In my experience, the pipelines, sewer, reclaimed, water distribution make up big chunks of these pies.
Okay.
Sorry, last question on that. Like this is, you had said in the beginning, this was replacement cost, or, I mean, because obviously there's a huge amount of labor. I mean, it's not the actual pipe that costs the money. It's digging up
It's the
everything.
installation.
Yeah. Okay. So that's like,
These dollar values are the total anticipated project cost if there is a catastrophic event and the town needs to replace all of it.
right.
Got it.
Understand.
Got it. Good. Good stuff.
So this next bar chart takes a look at the difference between the replacement value and the remaining value for each utility area. The blue bars are the replacement value and the red bars are the depreciated values. The town of Netherland has a lot of aged infrastructure, similar to most communities throughout the United States, if not the world. So a couple of things I find very interesting about this set of bar charts. The third one from the left is the water distribution system. We talked about that one. But what's kind of interesting as well is to take a look at utility areas where the town has made some investments. So I'm going to point you to the third from the right. No, the second from the right, the wastewater treatment facility. So the town invested in 2013 and 2020. These are significant investments in treating the wastewater. And you can see that the blue bar and the red bar are not so far apart. More recent investment, still a value, less depreciation.
Mm.
The other area where the town has really invested is in the water meters. It's little bitty. Fourth one over from the left. They don't make up a huge percentage of the town assets, but you can see how close
Mhm.
the blue and the red bar are because the town aims to replace 100 per year to stay on top of it. So those are some happy stories about what happens when the town is able to invest in a certain utility area. And there was one that you wanted to comment on, Andrew. You noticed this.
Yeah, I guess two, happy to answer questions. Two things that stood out to me was just how big the water distribution system was and the difference between the replacement cost and the depreciated value. To me, that was like, wow, we got to start addressing that in the future. Compared to our sewer collection system, where the town did a ton of rehabilitation in the 2010s following the 2013 flood, the difference between that replacement cost and that depreciated value is less. So maybe that's less of an urgent need. And then the big one I wanted to point out is potable water tanks. You'll see there's a big difference there. However, the nature of those construction, they're buried concrete tanks. So they have the potential to last a very long time. We're also required to send professional divers in to inspect them every 5 years. So we can get eyes on them, more often, unlike that's harder to do with water pipes. So for those, I know it's kind of scary seeing those potable water tanks with that depreciated value, but that's actually one that we're comfortable pushing out further because we can keep an eye on things, and our inspections to date haven't noticed any signs of deterioration that would cause immediate concern.
Got it.
If you did see signs in that, is that more repairable at a lower cost compared to, say, the distribution system?
I know there's repair options out there. Julie might be better suited to answer that.
I agree, Andrew. There are repair options for some kinds of concrete. Cracking, minor cracks is one thing. Not funny, but I joke with Andrew. If there's an earthquake,
We're screwed.
right,
Okay.
but barring that, it's probably fine. So when you start to see aggregate, which means all the little pebbles that make up concrete on the inside of your tank, and you see all this little debris on the bottom, not good. Then you start to, should we coat it? Is there a structural coating we can use? All those options. So there's stuff. All right. Last graph then?
I'm very interested in this one. I have no idea
Okay.
what it's telling us.
Okay. So one of the elements of the asset database, not only, date, year of installation, yada, yada, yada. When you've got a whole town of aged infrastructure, how do you know what's most important?
Yeah. Okay.
Another element is assessing the risk. We look at the criticality of the asset. We look at its vulnerability to failure. Multiply those two numbers together and you get a risk. So it speaks to, will people become sick if this fails? Will operations be up for days trying to fix something? Is the state going to come down on you with fines and yada yada? That's criticality. That's risk. And so I put all the risk scores of the 250 assets onto this chart, and I looked at this curve and I started looking at, well, what do you do about this?
Yep.
What you do is you try to push the risk down and to the left. So the assets that fall within that reddish bubble on the high steep, which is upper right, scooch those down. Do you repair it? Do you replace it? What do? You take a hard look at those assets. When you have money or you're along for the ride, you take a look at the yellow bubble assets, pushing them towards the lower left. That's what this graph is telling you. And so it's a really good way of helping staff understand the highest of highest priorities. And it's also a way to be able to talk with you and the community, why things cost what they do, why we're doing this, why your commute is completely hosed up because we've dug up the road. All these kinds of things, this kind of graph helps tell the story.
I'm making it my bumper sticker. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Yes,
Because
these are literally all of the town of Netherlands assets that we have in the database.
okay, but it doesn't show which things are in the red versus the green.
That's, that was going to be my first question. It's like, are there a couple of highlights out of that red
I
bubble?
think
that
that's
you
what the
would call
capital
out?
improvement project overview is going to be
Well,
about.
yes.
Yeah, that and also this informs our operations as well. So some of the things in the red are things that surprised us, honestly. It's an ultrasonic sensor that is in a flow meter in our wastewater plant that, you know, if that breaks, we could be in violation with our permit with the state. And so we want to make sure that at least we have one on hand to replace if that goes down. It's a chemical feed pump that, you know, it's not extremely expensive, but if it goes down, we can't dose chlorine at the plant. So we need to make sure we have a backup. It's not just big ones, but it's small ones as well. But I just can't say enough. Going through each line item with the team and walking through what happens was invaluable. And in the spreadsheet, we can rank it not just by the risk value, but also filter it by what is past its designed life and high risk, which is really like what we want to focus on. And we're just getting started with playing it around, and she's still kind of teaching us everything. But it's super helpful already.
So are the items in the capital improvement plan, are they things that are in the red, or is this stuff that we had kind of planned on before we knew what was in there?
I think it's mostly things that have been in progress for a while. And there are some in the out years that Andrew has started tracking. And by out years, some of them are greater than the 10-year CIP, but you may start to see requests for design money or planning money early in this process. Well, in years 8 or 9 or 10, for example, to try to address, it's the water pipelines that have kind of risen to the top. There's quite a bit of 1960s era pipe in the town that is risky and shows in need of replacement. So it's a combination, Miller.
Okay, we're going to shift gears to capital improvement projects. Please don't hesitate to stop me along the way. Just an overview of what capital improvement projects are. They're typically very large and expensive projects that take multiple years to complete, that often include design, planning, permitting, often are beyond what staff can do, require outside help, but they also provide benefit to the community for many years. I want to highlight that the dollars we'll be talking tonight are $2026, and they do not include any grant funds or loan servicing. That's something that we get into when we have the rate discussion. There'll be some discussion of, well, how much grant funding do you want to estimate? What do you want to pay with reserves? What do you want to finance? But that's not tonight. I want to highlight changes since the 2021 Master Infrastructure Plan. It's a great document that the town invested in. It's still a valuable document, but we are moving beyond that. Some projects have been completed since then. One big thing I want to note is that we've experienced less growth than the town predicted at that time, and we've had kind of several engineering planning projects that have helped inform more projects. We've started investing in GIS, and we've, of course, discovered that we've got multiple miles more of pipe than we thought back in 2021. That's what happens. We evaluated our membrane filters in 2023, which makes us a little more comfortable pushing them a little longer in their lifespan. We did a hydraulic model of our distribution system that really fine-tuned where our fire flow issues are, as well as some other issues. In 2025, as part of our water right diligence work, we defended our conditional water rights for Nederland Reservoir, but we also evaluated some alternatives that we will discuss. And then, of course, tonight we're asset management. One other thing I want to highlight is we're making a shift in our projects. A lot of the projects haven't changed too significantly, but we're moving away from a lot of the projects in the 2021 Master Infrastructure Plan are neighborhood based. And I think that's because at that time there was discussion about possibly having different rates for different neighborhoods. I haven't heard that discussion since then, but so we're moving more kind of towards system-wide projects, and but a lot of those projects are incorporated in these projects. They're just kind of broader projects. I want to make that note. Okay, I'm going to go through this table that you have as an attachment here. It's of course too small on the screen, and I'll just talk through them. Please feel free to stop them at any point. Next year we want to apply for a Colorado water plan grant to conduct a feasibility study for raw water storage off stream. That grant's due December 1st, and I think it's a good grant. I think it requires 25% match, but we're told that if you could provide a little bit more than that, it makes you more competitive. So we'll talk more about that, but that's what this project is studying the feasibility. And we met with the people that oversee the Colorado Water Plan Grant. They said this project is great, and the first step is this feasibility study, and then that gets them into their process towards loans and grants for design and ultimately construction. So as Julie mentioned, we'll have some projects that are just design and then constructions later. So, following that feasibility study, we also want to include design and engineering for that water storage. It is late in the 10-year plan, and that there might be some flexibility in it. The construction of the reservoir is probably very expensive. The current estimate is $5.5 million in 2026 dollars. And there's a lot of complications to this project. So what we're thinking is possibly pushing that project out and doing another project that we'll talk about, wells, as a short-term water reliability, just to make it somewhat more affordable, but still move forward with this project, but make it possibly a little bit more affordable for our community. This next slide here is for our SCADA. This is a screenshot of our SCADA program. Our current SCADA program is locally owned. It looks old-fashioned, but it's really an amazing program. The problem is it's locally owned by someone who's been helping the town, I think, since 2000, if not earlier. And he's provided an incredible value to the town. A lot of what he's built and installed is still providing great value to the town, but he wants to retire, and so He is helping us transition to a more widely used platform called Ignition, which is kind of the top software platform out there for water systems. So this project will be having him help program the transition from our current system to the new system, but also licensing. One of the great things with our current system, we haven't paid any licensing fees or annual service fees, and with all the options out there, that changes. I think the licensing fees, there's lots of different options, but it's upwards of $30,000 just to license the software, and then there's annual service fees. So it's unfortunate, but it's also a good thing because transitioning to a widely used platform will give the town more continuity long term in the future. Okay, membrane replacement. We talked about how these membrane filters are, these are the cartridges. They have a design life. They're past their design life, but we evaluated their performance. They're still doing great. We do need to replace those modules, and we have the opportunity to add more modules. We would like to start the planning process to replace those, but pushed out the replacement based on a conversation we have with an engineer that specializes in membranes. If we want to develop a well, the recommendation is develop that first, see if there's any impacts to your current membranes before you put brand new membranes in. This is the project for wells. So the town historically has multiple wells that were along the creek that we still have right to, but they're not in use. We would like to begin planning to redevelop those wells. So should anything happen to Middle Boulder Creek, we have a supply of water. It doesn't give us complete protection from the creek. It is groundwater next to the creek, but it helps provide some protection against extreme drought. And if there's wildfire upstream and there's ash in the stream, it would provide some protection from that ash. So there's some legal aspects to that, some engineering aspects, but you'll see the cost for developing those wells is much less than building a reservoir. And so this will be a short-term option to give us more security with our water supply until the reservoir is developed. This is a project that was not on our capital improvement plan until we did our asset management database. These pumps pump water from our water treatment plant to our storage tank. We ran into an issue with one that went down with some issues. We were able to meet demand with the other two, but we lost our redundancy. That pump is back in service. We're okay, but we would like to rehabilitate the other two pumps to prevent that from happening again. You mentioned all the work that Josh's crew is doing. This vehicle, this is a combination jet vac truck that provides high pressure water and vacuum that is used. We primarily use it for sewer cleaning. It's also used greatly for excavation as well. It's a great truck, but it's from 1991. It works great, and sometimes, in some ways, the older stuff's easier to maintain. So we want to keep pushing it as long as we can. We just want to put it in the capital improvement plan. So we're starting to set money aside for it with our budgets. Okay, this is the biggest project in our capital improvement plan. This is kind of the culmination of realizing, how much our distribution system costs, how much of the aging pipe exists, and then also combining that with the results of our water model. So we kind of set a goal. This isn't, everything installed in the 1960s. We can't do that. But we set a goal for replacing all of the 4-inch water line that was installed in the 60s and 70s, as well as a little bit of 6-inch lines to try to get all of our fire flow above 1,000 GPM, which has been a goal. There was a goal set in our 2024 water model, And I was just looking at a document from 2018. That was also a goal back then. So it's long been a goal for us. We also have an issue in certain areas of the town where fire hydrants are not spaced close enough. And so this project would also install more fire hydrants to improve that spacing. It's a very expensive project. We could do the project sooner if you wanted to. The reason why, just to be honest with you, the reason why we put it for this for 2030, 2031 is two reasons. We don't have a huge record of water main breaks, knock on wood. We we get about one a year for which is a pretty good track record. So pipes haven't shown the sign that they're failing frequently. So we feel we could push it back. And this is also when the loan payment for our around the time when the loan payment for our water plant retires. So it possibly would free up a little bit expense in our budget. So that was the thinking with that.
And when you say targeting 4-inch line and some 6-inch line, that means you're converting them to what, 8-inch? Or what do you?
Yeah, converting them to 6 and 8. Yeah, converting a 4-inch to 6-inch and 6 to 8.
Yep. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And then just to clarify, sorry, Andrew, you're doing a great job. I just want to chime in a little bit with where these numbers are coming from. The adopted fire code for town requires a fire flow of 1,000 GPM for a single family dwelling up to 3,600 square feet, and it can be kind of modified. The numbers are adjusted based on whether or not a home is sprinklered. For example, you wouldn't need as much water to put out that house fire potentially. But that's where those numbers come from. And if the town is able to invest into this infrastructure, you're probably looking at a high likeliness of an ISO rating being improved. So this work is important, and it's been on the books for a long time. I know that's something that even the fire department's been chiming in for many, many years.
And Trustee Jocelyn, just to clarify, ISO rating is the rating that the fire station or the fire department has that says how responsive you are to fires, and it can have a direct impact on folks' insurance that they pay.
Yeah, so that's a rating that that the insurance companies give your fire department. And sorry, thank you. I speak in jargon a lot. Yeah, so that ISO rating could improve your insurance.
Just one last note is the fire flow is a main focus of this project, but it also addresses aging infrastructure. And we also have some issues where we have pipes, especially in the Big Springs neighborhood, that were installed too shallow. So we have to run water all winter to prevent freezing. This would also help address that issue as well.
What percentage of our total water delivery infrastructure does this address? Like as in terms of the water delivery system, like what percentage of pipes are we?
That's a good question. I think
Roughly.
Roughly, I want to say, so I'm thinking back to the presentation from last meeting. I think I said there was 18 miles of pipe. That's from our GIS system. This would address 2 miles of pipe, so roughly 10%.
Yeah, 10%. Okay.
Which, in some ways, there's more to be done, but this is also a massive project in terms of Netherlands history.
Yeah, and then certainly I'm guessing that a lot of the red bubble exists in that zone.
Yeah, the red, the large, this is from our water model report. I can make a note to reattach this because it's really good stuff. Those are pressure zones. This picture shows fire flow from fire hydrants. So the little dots that are red, those are the bad ones.
Yeah, and like if I remember correctly, it was not just low flow, but not enough spacing as well. So it was like kind of compound issue. Yeah.
Right, and the town requires spacing of 600 feet, and we've got places up there where we're not meeting that at all. I want to say it's almost double in some areas. So.
Dang it. I think the fire hydrant on my property is red. Okay, good to know. Not much is going to come out of that.
You got an okay one.
Do I? Because it looks,
It looks
it's red.
yellow. I think it's yellow.
Is it red? 'Cause I thought it
yours
was the
is
one on
I
yellow.
think
the.
it's orange.
Oh.
That makes me feel a lot better. Thanks.
Okay. So, fleet truck replacement, you can make trucks work for a long time. We don't drive a ton. We want to push these back as much as we can. But we do need to replace them. At some points, we want to set funds aside. If we can, we'll keep pushing them back. We think we can replace most, if not all, of our vehicles with electric when the time comes. Pressure reducing valves, there's a lot we can do with operations and maintenance, but at some point we need to invest in replacing those valves. They work 24/7 to maintain pressure in different parts of the town. So this project would be replacing the PRVs in town in 2031, 2032. Caribou Ridge generator. This is among the oldest of our generators. It was installed by the developer of Caribou Ridge development in the 2000s, but they used old equipment, which we accepted, unfortunately. But it works fine. It's a diesel engine that will last forever, but this is at the top of our list to replace. Trustee Miller, you mentioned the idea of using batteries instead. I don't have any formal numbers from you, but JVA looked into it. They couldn't find any projects to look at for this type of pump station. This is a booster pump station that maintains pressure 24/7 and has to kick on to provide fire flow. So there's very large pumps inside the pump station. And their initial findings was, one, it would be more expensive, and then two, you'd probably still want a generator there based on the history of long-term outages here. So with that said, we're happy to keep looking in. I wanted to have better results for you, but the initial result wasn't too good. It would be kind of a cutting edge thing for the town to do, and there's a chance that we'd still have to have a generator there. And then if you have a generator there, it has to run once a week to make sure that it's run. So we paused there, but happy to keep it digging in there. They did mention that newer generators are the emissions are much better, the sound is much better, and there's improvements that we can make to that building that could help sound. But this would be the first generator that we recommend replacing.
Thanks for checking into all that.
Similar to the raw water generator, it's a smaller generator, but it's in that kind of class from the 1990s.
Is this the one that when it kicks on, everyone thinks there's a fire over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They both do. I don't know why nobody yells about the Caribou Ridge one, but yeah, the smoke up there is it's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, that generator is serious. It's
Yeah.
like
But just clarifying, these only run when the power's out.
they run once a week.
Well, aside from the test runs.
Yeah. So they run, and then when the power's out, except these generators here only run when their power's out. The Big Springs generator kicks on when the fire flow pump kicks on because the electrical grid in that area can't support it.
Oh, okay.
That's the one caveat, but that's doesn't apply to Caribou Ridge or the raw water. The Big Springs pump station has a natural gas generator that when the pressures drop and the fire flow pump is kicked on, that generator has to kick on to run that pump because the electric grid is it's just like a residential electric grid right there, and it's not big enough to support that pump. So the generator runs anytime that pump runs. That's the only one that we have like that. Okay, this is a new project that came up. We did a tabletop exercise with the with the fire district, and it really made us realize how vulnerable the Big Springs pump station is. It's a wooden building on the edge of national forest land, and we have redundancy within the pump station, but we do not have redundancy for the pump station. So if that building goes down, we're in trouble. So the fire department recommended get rid of the dead and fallen trees ASAP. We just worked our butts off to do that in the last 2 weeks. Huge thanks to Robbie from the Parks Department, who's one of the staff that's trained in fire mitigation. He was a huge help with us. So the dead and down are mostly gone, but we need to invest in hardening that structure, replacing the wood siding with more fire resistant siding and roof, adding gravel. This is an early estimate of that work, and that also includes we need to remove more trees around the building as well. So this is a kind of a new project, an early estimate, but we felt like it's very important to address. Okay, I think it was Trustee Miller. Someone mentioned at the last meeting about adding the pump to the Big Springs pump station. This was something that came out of our water model discussion a year or two ago, of that one of the bottlenecks to the section of Big Springs that's served off that pump station. A bottleneck is that we don't have enough pump capacity to add more flow. And so we want to have a project of adding that pump station. Our thinking is that we harden that building, we add the pump, and then once we add the pump, then it makes sense to enlarge the pipes, because in that zone, the pump station is the pump is the biggest bottleneck, and then once that pump gets added, then the 4-inch pipe becomes the biggest bottleneck.
So you just got done stating that, it's a really big deal if that pump goes down. Like, I mean, let's say a fire starts at that intersection, and this is the whole point of having an egress as well. Is there, I didn't see a redundant, or that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. So I've been calling rental companies about emergency options.
Uh-huh.
I've gotten word that the city of Erie has a pump station on a truck, so I need to
Gotcha.
talk to them. So I think that's our redundancy, is identify emergency backup options
Gotcha.
ahead of time.
Okay. As long as okay, that actually makes sense.
It would be a bad day.
It would be a very bad day. That's what I'm
The
saying.
fire department did say it's on their radar, and they would station a truck at that building should anything get close to it, which is nice.
Yeah, it's on our pre-plans. We have a wildfire atlas that we use for early operations into suppression efforts, and that building is marked already, and something that I think that maybe some information that we shared back in 2024, I think is when we compiled those. So it's on our radar. We understand it's important. We'll do everything we can to protect it. If there's firefighter safety concerns,
Yeah.
then obviously we'll withdraw. But that's what we're concerned about. And so, if we need to get in there, do some prep work, fight the best that we can, awesome. But what we're concerned about is if there is a need to withdraw, can the building sustain itself? And in its current state, the answer is an obvious no.
Oh, I see. So the point is to try to make the building as resilient as possible,
Right.
so that it can withstand the fire
Right.
with enough time for you guys to get in there and extinguish the fire around it.
Correct.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And that it can keep pumping water to the surrounding area.
Okay.
This project, so we
Mhm.
budgeted this year to add one of the remaining 2 fire hydrants we identified around near the community center. We added the entire project on the CIP because of our next agenda item. I think it's the next one.
Yes.
We're going to be asking if we could relocate the project. We can get into that later, but that's why this project is a little bit bigger than initially planned. Similar fleets truck, we've got old dump trucks. They work great, but we need to, just keep in mind, we need to replace them at some point. This came out of asset management of, oh, wow, our radios and our remote PLCs, which are like industrial computers out in the system, are getting up there in age. They're past their design life. We should replace them. And so we identified this project from the asset management of replacing our 2 oldest PLC cabinets and radios. Okay, this is projects outside the 10-year horizon. This is not an exhaustive list, but these are projects that we have discussed in the past, and we don't want to lose sight of them. One is the raw water storage. It's a major project. It's a complex project, but it's critical to the town. Water plant expansion. So we've experienced relatively flat water usage over the last 10 years. Should that ever change, we'll need to talk about a water plant expansion. And then from the water distributions project is we also identified areas where we wanted to loop some water mains to improve redundancy. We thought aging infrastructure and fire flow was more important to that. So this is kind of a placeholder for us not to forget about it. This is not an exhaustive list. There's more aging infrastructure we'll need to address in the next 10 years. More stuff will come up, but these are projects we want to keep track of.
And just to be clear, these are today's dollars. These are not 10 years from now dollars.
These are all $26.
Thank you.
And the table includes a 4% interest rate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, wastewater CIP, this will be much faster because there's a lot of overlap. All that fleet stuff is overlap between the two. And as you saw,
Just side question, like the dump truck, do you share that with streets or is that just yours?
yeah, so the one dump truck we use to haul biosolids. So a lot of times it's, collecting biosolids and is not available. We then use it to haul back material that is used by anyone, but that one is not as readily available. It can be. We just need to plan ahead. This white one, this is like the utility. Everyone uses it to haul equipment. It's great for little projects and stuff. It does require a CDL, but it's available. What we've realized over time is none of our equipment gets a ton of hours. So all sharing it, all the equipment is just a matter of communication, coordination. It's not like we're putting hours on it like some contractors that use stuff all day every single day. Okay, moving on to the wastewater CIP, very similar to water. You'll see it's smaller also because, as we saw in the asset management database, we've made some more recent improvements, investments in our wastewater system. We spent funds last year. We gave our engineer, we basically inspected the entire sewer system, gave them all the videos and reports, and they identified, prioritized what pipes had to be lined, what areas need to be repaired, what manholes had to be lifted. That project is kind of ready to go, and the estimate is $1.8 million. So we could bring, it's kind of ready to go to a contractor, but we decided to push it back and, address things through our operation budgets until such time. So the 2032, 2033, again, that's around the time when our wastewater plant loan sunsets. And so it might be a good time to take on another large project. And so our thinking is that we'll update this project along the way. We'll make do with point repairs over the next several years to kind of buy us some time to save up money to address this big project. I think, John, mentioned, again, we're not talking about grants tonight, but I know John has mentioned that specifically DOLA has a history of funding projects similar to this. Another project that came out of our asset management database, we repair pumps regularly because they're in really bad environments and they fail more regularly. So our operations budget already kind of is more on a radar. This aeration equipment is critical to the wastewater treatment plant, and it just works and works and works. It's not in as bad of an environment, so they last longer, but they're very expensive. So we need to kind of plan for their replacement at some point, hopefully before they fail. Wastewater plant permit renewal. I got a good update on this one. Our current discharge permit with the state is administratively extended since 2016. So the town applied for a new one, and this was very common with many systems because the state was short-staffed. So our permit's been administratively extended since 2026, or since 2016, sorry. And we've been trying to eyeball when our new permit will be coming. We were kind of expecting it to be next year, but we got a call or an email wanting to set up a meeting with the state. We got the invite a week or two ago and had the meeting this Monday, and they want us to start working on permit ASAP.
Nice. Very
Yeah.
cool.
So we're going to try to squeeze it in with our budget this year with some savings from some other line items. This budget will likely change, hopefully reduce, because we're going to start the process now. Again, these are just projects that have been discussed in the past. It's not going to be the only projects in the next planning horizon, but these are ones that have been discussed and we want to keep an eye on. And it's mostly for the expansion or upgrade of our wastewater treatment plant. Wastewater treatment plants are very expensive, and so should we see a large increase in flow or organic waste to our wastewater plant, an expansion could be very expensive. Okay, sorry for talking all that. Would love to hear your feedback. Anything you want to be considered or included in our rate or questions or whatever you want included in the next week's next meeting's presentation.
Yeah, fabulous. Any clarifying questions for Mr. Bliss?
As always, you do such a good job. We don't have any clarifying questions.
Just weigh you down.
Boggle our minds and keep us speechless.
I have a question. I think it'd be helpful for the public to understand, especially in light of our one of our agenda items later today, and that is, you know, the PIF fees and these tap fees and everything that come in. It seems like there's a direct correlation with a lot of these things that we want to get jump started and the budgets that are associated with them, that's what those things pay for. And so I was wondering if you could just go into a little bit more detail on that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Ratepayers have built a system that has capacity for others to connect to, and they've been paying for and supporting that system. And so those PIF fees are designed to kind of offset some of the costs that ratepayers have spent to build the system, and it will be put towards taking care of the system with these projects, these expensive projects in the future.
Okay. So where has it in the past sort of impacted you? Like, because there have been those situations in the past where, you know, we'll waive that, or like, can you just crystallize for us, like what the direct impact, like what happens when we make decisions like that?
I think the simplest way is that there's less revenue, and we have reserves that can help soften the cost of these. So if there's less revenues from PIF fees, then that means our reserves are smaller, which means then that ratepayers will need to, whether it's cash funded projects or finance projects, rates will need to make up that difference more.
Okay. Any other clarifying questions?
Do you have a rough assessment of what percentage of the revenue comes from PIF fees versus rate stuff? I mean, just very generally. And I was guessing it goes up and down a lot because of.
So in years past, we budgeted 1, maybe 2 residential, and then if we know a big project's coming, then we budget for that. So it depends.
We've really worked over the last few years to really try to normalize that number, like to make sure that the PIF number is not too high and really reflective of what we think are coming down the pipeline on projects. But typically, I think the PIF fees are the percentages, user fees really support kind of ongoing system. It's not really that distinction, and the PIF fees are like kind of the taking on the impacts of new development on the system. So it is different.
I think I heard you earlier. You said that that ratepayers had built the system. Like, did we not used to have PIF fees as the system was built out?
You know, I don't know exactly. I know historically in every town, tap fees, PIF fees were very low. And then in more recent years, systems have done a better job of calculating, how much does it cost to serve a customer and what's a fair price to connect?
The reason is those are enterprise funds. And so under Tabor, essentially enterprise funds have to run like a business. So they have to self-support themselves. So when you think about our water and wastewater systems, what happens is those PIF fees pay for all of that infrastructure development. That's how we got it in the first place, is kind of developing that. And then the user fees have to pay for what happens in those funds. So that's how it's set up currently. And so that's why that's typically the structure that people use to talk about it.
Gotcha. I guess I was sort of trying to get the historical, Andrew was just saying that the system was sort of built out through user fees, and now we're trying to balance offloading so much onto just your water bill by PIF fees taken. I was just wondering how long we've been charging PIF fees, if anybody knows. I'm guessing a long time ago. It would just
Yeah. We've been charging PIF fees for
At least since the 70s.
Yeah. I know in 2021, the rate study found that they were undercharged, and then that set up a 3-year phase-in of higher PIF fees.
Any other clarifying questions for Andrew before we go to public comment? All right, let's go to public comment. Are there any public comments in the room on the capital improvement plan? All right, let's go online. And if there are any public comments on this presentation on the capital improvement plan. I don't see anything, I don't think. Okay, we'll bring it back to the board. Is there anything, just to be explicit and to keep our discussion focused, is there anything that anyone would like to request of Andrew for the next presentation? Or is he nailing it and we'll just be excited to be surprised and see what he comes back to us with?
B.
Okay, B, we're excited to see.
Well, I mean, one takeaway is we definitely need to go over PIF fees,
Okay.
and Raftel, the consultant from Raftelis, will be here, and he works with communities across the country on PIF fees, so he'll be the best person to talk to about those.
Fabulous.
Is his name Andrew?
Yeah, unfortunately.
They're all named Andrew. Anybody in water?
Oh.
You can leave- has to
Actually,
be-
one thing, just I would say, since you have this new risk chart, it might be cool to see kind of what are some key
What are the red?
data points pulling out of that red.
Yeah, I'd like to see more from that.
It'd be like
red.
kind of what
If it's
jumps
not
out
too
there.
much to
Yeah.
ask. I think it's just helpful for the public to be aware of what they are.
Copy that.
Yeah, I mean, the risk stuff, because it really does, I mean, like you said, that risk factor is something that has direct public health impact. And so it'd be good to know what those things, what we're spending the money on.
Copy that.
Are the scale, like the financial scale of each of those 250 points, kind of completely varied along that line? I mean, the risk, yeah. Kind of be nice to get a sense of that too, especially in the red zone.
John, did you have something to add?
Just to give a caveat that we may not be able to show, there may be security considerations that we should think about. But Andrew can look at that and see what he can figure out. I just want to make sure that we all take our water security seriously.
Thanks for bringing us back to earth.
Thank you.
All right, well done. We look forward to the next one.
Thank you. And I just want to take one moment to thank Julie.
Yeah, thank you, Julie.
Our team loves her. She's been a huge help and mentor to us. And I don't know if this is appropriate to say, she's working with a crazy discount for the town. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you,
We're getting good
Julie.
value out of her. Thank you.
Julie, thanks for being
Thanks,
here.
Julie.
Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and hop into your next one. Board, if you're okay, let's get through this and then we'll take a quick break before our next. Is that okay? Can you last?
Perfect.
Okay. I think this one will be relatively quick. Andrew, take us away. Just a brief overview and let's get into it.
Yeah, we had a project recommended by the fire department. They asked us to change locations. We talked to the board about it before, so we want to come back to the board and make sure it's okay with you. Happy to go into any details.
All right, clarifying questions for Andrew. Public discussion. Anybody in the room have a public comment on the water distribution improvements project location change? Let's go online and see if there's anyone online who would like to make a public comment on this topic. And we will bring it back to the board for discussion and or direction. Yeah, go do it.
Thank you.
All right. can we
Nods.
take a quick
He
break?
nods.
Are you guys okay with 5 minutes? All right, and then we'll get back in here. No, it's still warm. I don't know why, Andrew. I love learning about this structure. Like, it's never a dull moment.
Water's best.
If you ever need an intern, maybe one of these days when I retire.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it too.
It's like, seriously, it's amazing. Like, keeping people alive and infrastructure up and going. And I think it's just
Oh, shit.
Like, very. Like, we'll get
Do you need to get CEUs for your contractor's license? Question mark.
Okay, can we, that answers. Okay, we take the presentation. Fine, I'll do it.
Oh, shit. Gotta go back.
Yes. All right, we got this, guys.
We all here?
All right, welcome back, everyone. We are now on to our second to last agenda item. Yes, remember I added one at the end. I also want to appreciate everyone's time. This was added to the agenda because I thought it was necessary to have the conversation. So it is me to blame for our long night tonight. Town Manager Kane, can you go ahead and introduce the top of the waves here, briefly summarize, and we will go into again presentation by Stephen. He will not be a part of the process for the public comment. We will give him the ample time to do a presentation.
Mayor and trustees, last meeting you had a request from Teens Inc. About making a possible accommodation for the $361,582 that's required for water and wastewater plant investment fees associated with their development. And you gave me a directive to look at what that impact looks like across our system. I did some of that analysis and it's in my staff report so you can read it. Essentially, the way that breaks down is it's $246,857 in water fees and $114,725 in wastewater fees. That's how you get to that whole $361,582. I worked with Mr. Bliss, who's here, and he can talk about this as well. But we have approximately 892 water accounts, 622 wastewater accounts. We have a couple accounts that have, there's like 4 accounts that have wastewater, not water, and then vice versa on the other side too. If we look at what that costs, because those, as we just talked about, PIF fees are part of the impacts we have from ongoing development. If we spread that impact across all the users in an equal share, it would equal about $277 per existing water account, $184 per wastewater account. So if we just forgive those fees and then have the system eat them, that's about $461 per user. And that would be on top of other rate increases that we're going to have to contemplate based on that capital improvement plan that you guys just saw Andrew present. One of the things I wanted to note is that we need to talk to Mr. Ream, who Andrew was talking about, a little bit more, and that is coming. That's something we want to do as a part of this budget process for water and wastewater rate setting, because we can use his tools that he have to look at how we would think through the increases with the capital improvement plan that we have. So I just wanted to kind of tell you that that's something that we want to do, but this is the impact it would be if you put it on a per user basis. I met with Mr. Mahold a little bit ago to talk about how they were thinking that they could pay the remaining PIF fees. And what we discussed is that one potential option is that they could put their their current child care facility into escrow, the title into escrow, and then if they don't pay those fees, we could take that building and sell it potentially. That is something that could happen. I think there is some additional costs that you'd have to think about that. We did also talk about a 3% interest to do that, and then some kind of repayment over multiple years. You don't see much more detail than that in my staff report. I think we need a little bit of direction. And I gave you a couple of alternatives of just what might work. So that is my staff report. There's a couple of questions to kind of like get your discussion going. And if you have questions for us, we're happy to answer.
Thank you. Okay, let's start off with if there's any clarifying questions for Town Manager Kane and or Mr. Bliss.
Just, I mean, I think I understand that, but I just want to make sure that it's clear to everybody, including myself, is that the suggested rate payer increase, John, you've got $461. That's over the span of what, 30 years? Is that kind of the
Well,
window?
I didn't interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, not exactly. We had budgeted those monies this year. So they are supposed to go into our current capital improvement plan starting right now. We've actually already delayed them a year. that
Yeah, but like
361.
we're not planning on spending that money. I mean, it goes into that $7 million but water
Well,
budget.
we were planning on spending it in that capital improvement plan that Andrew's just talking about. So this will have an impact on that plan. Is it going to stop things? And I think that's really one of the things for Andrew is kind of figuring out how this impact would work. But that $461 is just to make up the impact if we forgive those fees this year for what we were anticipating coming into the system. We also do need to talk about water and wastewater rate increases that would be on top of that money. This is just taking on the impact of those PIF fees.
So it's over the course of
but-
1 year. It's just
Well,
in
yeah,
1
but-
year, if we were to spread the cost out to the ratepayers, they would owe 461 for if they had a sewer account and a water account.
Right, but unless I misunderstand how the water and sewer funds work, we have a multi-million-dollar budget in there that gets sort of spent over many years.
The thing is that money was already budgeted and it's already a year late. And so that money, what it does is it impacts our available fund balance that we can use for projects right now. That's why I did it that way. You could look at it over a 30-year period too, but the impact is not over 30 years. It's in 2027.
Okay, so you're mathing this out as $461 per account over the course of 1 year.
Well, it doesn't really matter either way. It's the same. That's the impact in the system, but that's what each ratepayer would pay. But what I'm telling you is that there are additional rate increases that will be recommended for water and
Yeah.
wastewater for that.
No, yeah,
project list.
I'm just saying like, in this context of offsetting the PIF fee.
It would-
But that's
yeah,
also assuming that the PIF fee is not paid, period.
correct.
Right. Okay.
Additional questions?
Well, that would be as if it's not paid in the 461. I'm reading it here in question 1. So, it's not paid because it's waived. But then you say right under the 461, you say this is not a proposed rate increase. It's
No.
not intended to predict how utility rates would change, but actual rates depending on but this would be taken into
If you just said
account.
that they were not responsible for their fees, that's the impact on the system from a monetary perspective. That's the per user impact. And it would be the same over 30 years or one. That's just because it's just for those dollars, which are really $25 at this point. But that's the impact that it was calculated at. And so then if you did another arrangement, it wouldn't necessarily have the same impact. Like if you gave them time to pay it, it would still create that impact that we'd have to deal with, but it may not be 461 per user because that money might come back into the system in a different way.
So if they paid it over time, then that money would theoretically come back into the system, or is that
Well, I think
not
that
math quite that clean?
it could. The challenge with that is that there have not been historic good luck collecting fees. And then the other thing is that we've budgeted that money. So Andrew's budget would have a significant deficit in it this year, which would be, like he said, we do have some reserves, but that money is budgeted to start working for the town in 2027. And that's like thinking about the future value of money. So like we're thinking about interest in like the inflation of that money over time as it's in the system. So it is a little bit complicated here, but essentially what we're trying to show is this is the impact per user if the PIF fees aren't paid. There are other structures you could use, but it's not that impact is not going to go away unless because of the way that the money will come in. So there's inflationary changes and different kinds of things that'll happen.
It's basically a shortfall, if a payment was made, and I think the payment plan was like basically, like a 70-ish thousand each year, you're still short the 200 and odd number of thousands of dollars that was accounted for in your budget for this year.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we wanted to include this scenario in our rate projection. So there's a financial model that has our reserves and user fees, et cetera. And it's a 10-year projection. I think we wanted to do that, but it wasn't going to be, we couldn't do it for this meeting.
Right.
So it is complicated. And so I think this was kind of trying to communicate the impact without doing a full analysis that couldn't be done by now.
Got it. All right. Any other clarifying questions? All right.
Yeah, I guess not yet. Can we ask clarifying questions of Stephen?
Yep, we will
Okay,
be
cool.
asking clarifying questions. All right, Stephen, you're up. Come on down.
Good evening. Thanks for taking some time, squeezing us in. I'm Stephen LeFevre. I'm Executive Director of Teens, Inc. I was here last week and just want to recognize that maybe I came across as emotionally charged, but I was really trying to just squeeze in the amount of time that I had. Time was short. I thought I had more time. I didn't. I was not trying to be emotional. But I just want to clarify that that was not my intention. So I went back because it's crazy. August 20th, 2024, we were here talking about the lease and this exact topic. And at that time, we had no idea what the PIF fees were going to be because we didn't have the plans. And we weren't sure, but the talk that was going around was 100 to 150,000. It was 3/4 inch. It could be higher. We have no idea. We don't know the plan, but the number was 100, 150,000. There was talk of capping it at 200,000. Does anyone recall people who were here? That was the talk. And it was talked about that exactly like we can do this after the fact was what was talked about at that time. So that's kind of what brings us here. I mean, fortunately, you know, the town has worked with us the whole way. There would be no preschool without the town supporting this project as they had. There was no land available. So I just want to acknowledge that like in 2 years, we've come to within a month of opening, from lease negotiation to fundraising, to building, to working with Andrew, to working with John, to working with the streets, with everyone in town. So it's definitely been a partnership. And based on the lease, and everything we've got going on, it's meant to be a partnership for 99 more years at minimum. We are striving to open September 14th. Licensing's coming out the 28th. Furniture's coming on Monday. The town has supported, I mean, not just the town, the community has supported it incredibly to get us to this point. We wouldn't be here. We had no idea we'd be here this fast. The lease says 2027, built by December 2027, with 2 extension periods of, I think, 6 months. So our goal was to do it as quickly as we could, and we have. The PIF fees, which we're here to talk about, is 3.5 months of our operating costs for the whole preschool. Similarly to, I think, what Mr. Bliss was just saying is, we want to be set up for success, where we can support families who need care. We can support staff, so we can staff a facility. That's why we're asking to spread it over time, so we can be in the best possible situation to succeed with the 80 people who are on our pre-registration list right now. And I anticipate being about 85 to 90% full come February, March, basically. Opening at about 75% full. But those are the 80 people on the list. I guess, I mean, there's not too much to say other than like, we're asking to, you know, well, I will say, actually, if we get the $1 million from the senator's office, we will pay that in a heartbeat. That's not an issue. The latest, Jen was on the webinar recently, and I mean, we have a letter that says we were awarded $1 million for fiscal year 2026. The latest webinar we were on says that there is the potential opportunity for funds to be available for us is December 2026. There's a lot of things in that make it very questionable if it's going to come through. And that's why, I mean, honestly, if that was here, we wouldn't be having this discussion at all. Our fund, I mean, it wouldn't be the case. We have talking about some of the stuff that's been talked about is like, for 30 years, our 30th anniversary is next year, 2027. We've been fiscally responsible the entire time. We get an audit every single year. Our assistant director has been here since 1999. I've been there since 2003. We have a strong track record. We've never had debt until right now to finish this building. We have fundraising success. I mean, we're not trying to avoid paying these, but we want to be in a good situation to best serve the community. And that's paying them all up front right now will challenge greatly challenge our ability to be successful. I'm happy to answer questions or talk or whatever. I think the questions that Administrator Kane lined out will help us a ton to know where you all stand with that. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen. Any clarifying questions for Stephen?
Yeah, do you have any type of, I mean, looking at a payment plan kind of option, I got a few questions. Do you have any options thought about where you put money down, like this month, this fall? Like an initial payment before
Yeah.
CFO?
It's totally potential. I mean, obviously the less this year, the better, more helpful for us. But we understand too that like the payment plan that we spelled out, the first one was by 2027, September. And if it helps to have a payment in 2026, I think that's something that we want this to work. We want it to work for you all. We want it to work so we can open.
So if yeah, that makes sense. So if 5 payment, it's 390 or whatever, 300, and it's a lot. So it's a lot of money every year, 360. So it's, $72,000 a year. Can you have enough extra money at the end of the year to pay 72,000 with staffing or this will all be grants and donations or I mean, 'cause you don't have CCAP.
Our history is to end in positive. I mean, a modest income every year since I've been here, since 2005 as executive director.
This would be a big new kind of bill that you'd have every year for 5 years. I'm just curious, like, that just seems like a big chunk of change.
Extremely confident that we will make all of these payments. I have no question that we will be able to make these payments over time.
Okay, I guess a couple other things, and I saw it in here about just selling the preschool and giving the money to the town. The one on First Street, selling that property and paying the PIF with that.
Well, just some thoughts, like if we're losing $1 million, if we're paying $1 million that we thought we had and we sell that property, and have to pay the 360,000 out of that, that is not great for us because we've just lost $1 million. We've gained what, if we sell that for 650,000, that's only helping us back up with 240,000. But if there's a lien, if it's in an escrow account, of which is something to be talked about too. I mean, if that's, it would have to be the second, because the debt we're taking out to finish this project is using that building in that situation.
We had originally talked about a first position is what our conversation was.
Well, maybe that, I don't know if the banks will be there. Banks will allow that because we've already got that situated.
Okay. That was what my staff report was written under, that understanding as a first position.
Yeah.
But the reality is that that's the debt that you're already taking out to build the project is using that
To
house.
finish it off is using that house.
So then there wouldn't be an opportunity for even a, I mean, there is no second position. I'm assuming you're using the full, you know, what it's appraised for that collateral. Gotcha. Okay. Any other clarifying questions for Stephen?
I just have one more. I'll have one more. I'll be done. So another thing would be like, what would work better for you? A 3% interest or just like pretty beefy late fee and no interest? Like,
Beefy late fee.
yeah, what say
A beefy late fee.
Okay.
And
there's two other buildings that we have leases on that are available. There's all our vehicles. And we're trying to, like, I don't know. I don't know what,
What do you mean by that? Two other buildings?
well, the Teens Inc. 151 East Street and
Oh, I
the
see.
current preschool.
And the current preschool. Okay.
I have no concern. I know this isn't exactly how this stuff works. I have no concern, absolutely no concern that we will not make these payments. If we get the $1 million, well, that you can be our first payment.
Gotcha. Real quick, point of order. I'd like to extend the meeting until
Don't be shy.
let's go 10:30.
A second.
Oh, you were really quick on that. Thank you.
We need it. We don't need to waste another minute later.
I was going to say 10:45.
Oh, second.
Okay. I want to amend that and say 10:45 because we
Sec-
do need to talk about that second piece. And I apologize, but these are two important things that need to be dealt with. So,
Second.
Mayor Sterling,
yes.
Trustee Kennedy,
Yes.
Trustee Donahue,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Miller,
yes.
Trustee Giblin,
Yes.
and Trustee Jocelyn.
Yes.
Any other clarifying question? Thank you, everyone. Any more clarifying questions for Stephen?
I feel like I read this in the first reading, but I can't find it now. But did you say how many years you wanted to? Thank you.
That's right.
I knew I read it in there somewhere. I just couldn't find it right now.
Five was our proposal.
Yeah. That was my question. Thank you.
I'll just say one more thing about kind of like our fiscally, track record and success. We would not have been able to complete this project in 2 years from lease to now if we had not had a track record of being fiscally responsible for 20 years prior and had success and trust within this community and with funders outside of this community to be here.
I do have one more quick question. So, given some of the numbers or the years for projects we saw so far, what about like a 3-year plan? Could you, that would up the amount every year.
I think the tighter it gets and the more we're paying is is a little bit more painful, but it's a heck of a lot better than paying it all right now. Like again, we're trying to set ourselves up for success to best serve the community. And the 5-year is what gives us, and we want to get this off. We don't want this. We've never had debt. We do not want this on our books. We want to get it off as quickly as we can, while at the same time knowing what we need to do to serve the community the best we possibly can, which mainly focuses on staff and financial support that we can do. I mean, you talked about it in 2020, 2024 about we want to do unlimited CCAP. There's absolutely no CCAP funding right now. We still want to be able to serve folks who, that is something this community's never had. An unlimited commitment to serving to CCAP. It would be great if there was money from CCAP to help us. There's not. That's why municipalities oftentimes are giving operating costs to projects like this, which we're not asking.
All right, any other clarifying questions? All right, moving forward. Thank you, Stephen. We're going to go to public comment now. And so first we'll go to public comment in the room. If there's anyone who would like to make a public comment on this topic, please come forward. Hello, sir. Go ahead and speak into the mic and state your name and your relationship to town.
Macy, you mind showing
Is the
them?
mic on?
Little
There we
green.
go. See if I can chew gum and talk at the same time. My name is Craig Van Sant. I am a member of the Board of Directors of Teens Inc. So obviously I have a vested interest here. It's been interesting to me that this conversation has taken place at the same time as all of the conversation about the water and wastewater systems. Obviously, access to water and getting rid of wastewater is incredibly important, and I don't want to minimize that at all. What I'm worried about is with that on one hand and talk about the tap fees for Teens Inc. on the other hand, that has the potential of setting you all up as seeing this as an adversarial type of thing. I joined the board of Teens Inc. roughly at the time that we started talking about the lease and started doing the work to get the early learning center up and running. We entered into that partnership almost as a joint venture. You guys had the land. You wanted somebody that could run a daycare center, an early learning center. We have expertise in that. I'm not sure who approached who about that, but we were very successful in forming this partnership that can provide a tremendous service to the community. I don't want us to lose sight of that partnership. So as we continue our discussions about how to pay the tap fees, I hope that we can continue to do it in a teamwork fashion where we're all trying to meet the needs of the water department and meet the needs of the community that voted very strongly to approve this transaction. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room want to provide a public comment? All right, I'm going to go to online. Rab, am I correct in seeing that you would like to make a public comment? You can come off mute.
Yeah, that's right. Can you getting my audio?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, I had a couple, one clarifying question and then just a comment. My relationship to the community, I live up past the Sundance, so just out of town limits, former member of the Sustainable Advisory Board. So one clarifying question for Stephen would be, what type of payment could be made in 2026, given your current plans for opening? And is there any proration that you would need for 2026? That's one clarifying question. And then just a statement to reiterate some of the previous statements. I have a young family, really very much looking forward to this childcare facility as an option for the community that otherwise only has private options or a commuting option to the greater Boulder area. I appreciate that this is a loan would be structured like a loan rather than placing burden on those who um, pay regular fees to support the wastewater and water distribution networks in town. I guess I'll follow that up with a question to not quite sure who's in the room, but whoever was speaking on the statement that was put together that had the 400 some odd dollars per person. Um, and if they could speak to the structure of the loan and how that would impact um, future development processes. I know, it sounds like there's somewhat of a slush fund of $7 million-ish. Um, Definitely interest considerations and future value of money considerations to be had there, but um, is there a little bit of rob Peter to pay Paul available within that setup in order to, have the money be paid, but then also not impact future projects and, the value that the community has over time put into wastewater and water distribution. So that was a lot of questions, one clarifying from the board and one clarifying from Stephen.
Thanks, Rab. Let me see if there's any other public comments before we have staff address your comment. Anyone else online who has a public comment? If I were to characterize the question, it's Stephen, is there a certain amount that you were expecting that you could pay in 2026? I believe it goes back to that, what you had already outlined, but that was for 2027, correct? Okay. Stephen's coming back up to the podium.
So I think, again, when we talked if we like 5 equal payments, would be what, 60 some odd,
Something, yeah.
something.
$72,000.
Okay.
5. Yeah.
That I think it's being, again, as I mentioned earlier, the less right now, the better. So we want to make this work. So what's comfortable for you? 72, if we did 5 equal, great. If we did 50, then 4 equals, great. Yeah, no, I'm not giving a super concrete answer,
That's
but
okay.
I think hopefully you understand like our situation.
Got it. Thank you. Just real quick, I apologize. Did I miss Justin Peel?
Just raised his hand just after Stephen
He
started.
did.
Yeah.
Okay, he was after. Justin, if you've got a public comment, you have 3 minutes. If you'd like to make it, I'll go ahead and go back and let you do it.
Happy to, appreciate it. Still trying to figure out the phone interface for Teams, so it took me a while to find it. I just wanted to make the comment that we're also a young family like Rab, relatively new here, and one of the first things we were told when we moved here with our young child was to do our best to find care locally because, well, you know, the local family we were talking to had known plenty of people who ended up, you know, moving out eventually because you live next to where you have care. And we'd like to stick around in the community for a while, but the options are pretty slim. And just getting this open does a lot for our family right now. And, you know, I understand that there's always balances, but there's balance in trying to make sure that, you know, people can stay here when they want to.
Thank you, Justin. Going back to Rab's question, if I were to characterize it and understand what was being said, I think there's this understanding like, oh, well, you have 7 million sitting in an account. Why can't you just sort of pull something over? If I were to kind of, sorry, Rab, if that's not exact, but it's kind of like that, what he was describing, that Rob Peter to pay Paul kind of a situation.
Yeah, I think also the 7 million number, I'm not sure where that is
I'm
coming
not sure
from.
where that's coming from either.
That's just because that's what in Andrew's water fund presentation, there's a $7 million draw out of the water improvement system, but the actual but at least from our 2026 budget, our water fund balance is about 4 million, 3.9.
Yeah, that's right.
And one,
So
one,
there is a bunch of money in there, but it's not 7.
one caveat is the 3.9 million including assets, because I always get confused. with that.
That's cash. But
Okay.
that is a cash position. So just that fund, though, these are all semantics, so it doesn't matter. It's not a slush fund per se.
Yeah.
We're not saving for retirement. Those are project funds. And so those funds are what we're using to pay for the projects that are in Andrew's CIP. And I think it's really important to remember that. There's in economics, there's the concept of future value of money, which you can figure out through inflation and thinking about what a future dollar is worth, but today a dollar is worth. And so I think the overall impact on our system is not zero. And I think what we need is direction so that we can tell Raftellus how we need to structure the rates. That's the piece that you don't have. We don't know what that actual would look like. But in the case of a loan, if that money is paid back, we can build that math into the system. So it will be that would be how we do it. It wouldn't be like we're taking a piece of our reserves to pay for this because that's the problem is like zeroing out that if we zeroed out that money, we still have to, all the ratepayers still have to pay that money. It won't come back from somewhere else.
Thank you. All right, board. So it is now back to us for a discussion and or direction. So whenever someone is feeling willing, we want to start off our discussion. Oh, I see Pro Tem Miller's
I'm just going to
finger.
jump onto it because this is more or less what I wanted to talk about is how so we have our current water and sewer funds, which have, roughly $4 million in each. And yes, that money is distributed out as we see in Andrew's capital improvement plan. And as John just said, you can do the math and say, okay, if we don't, if we get that money over 5 years instead of all at once, that has X amount of, future value in it. And then I would also balance that with, sorry, it's too late for my brain. Stephen was saying that their building window was through the end of 2027 with some possible extension. So if they had taken longer to build this, we wouldn't be, PIF fees are paid at occupancy. So we wouldn't be getting that money until 2027 anyway. Am I wrong?
Yes, but not really. Like there's just the distinction is we've already given them a year on the PIF fees from when they should have been due.
Oh, I see. I
So
thought,
we're already a year past when we were supposed to take them, but that's really a moot point.
right. Okay. Well,
But they have to go.
yes, they have to, but I guess my point maybe is just that there might have been more wiggle room if they had taken longer to build and they got it done quickly and so are faced with, having to come up with this payment. And then on top of that, as some of the public comment and other points have made is like, there's a real benefit to our community to have this childcare center open. As there's a benefit to our community in having good water and sewer systems. And I don't think that we should be thinking about this as a one or the other. Like this is a way, seems to me a pretty clear way through this to get both benefits if we just juggle the numbers a little bit better. And structure this in a way that the water and sewer funds stay healthy and we get the childcare center open.
So what are you suggesting in terms of like the
I think
potential
that
plans?
is this four or five equal payments over 5 years, looking at, Andrew's, capital improvement plan, there's nothing huge coming out and it's like about $100,000 a year coming out of the expenditures, capital improvement expenditures over the next few years. If we had that $7 million, pipeline work coming up in these next couple of years, that'd be a different situation, but we have relatively small. So, well, I guess in 2027, there's like $200,000 coming out of it, but the next couple, sorry, I'm a little bit off on that. No, there's a couple of big ones in there. I was looking at the sewer. I was looking at the sewer one. That's what
I was just about to say,
Yeah.
can you scroll up more?
Yeah. So yeah, I guess, I mean, there is definitely that to be factored in. But if we can get the full amount by 2030, 2032, I mean, I'm sure that teens would, as soon as they have extra money to get this covered, they're going to do it. So I mean, I think thinking about this as a partnership where, they're going to look out for us and we're going to look out for them is a really positive way to approach it. Because this, getting this thing open has a huge benefit for everybody.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I'd want to just back up. Sorry if that was loud.
That's okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Miller. Yeah, this is obviously something that a lot of the community wants. Justin, thanks for showing up. I kind of wish there were more people from the community showing up to some of these meetings because, Stephen's been here now 3 meetings in a row. But it's important, and I think you could almost take a look at this just like the risk assessment chart that Andrew showed us. Where does this lie for us on that chart? Financially, it kind of seems like it's maybe in the moderate area where we could take a gamble on doing some sort of payment plan, trusting the history that Teens Inc. has, and taking a stab at this because I think it really is an important part of our community right now. Me personally, I've lost friends. I know I'm leaving too, but for other reasons. But I've had friends leave because of childcare. We've heard it time and time again. It's a big old circle. Without places for the kids to go, we can't have people living here. Without people living here, we can't pay any fees. So I think it's something we could take a stab at. And I think if we did some sort of payment plan, leaving some sort of interest on it, maybe even heavier, just to incentivize Stephen to come back with payment sooner than later. If grant cycles start over next year and they can get some more money coming in to address that, maybe that could work out.
So Trustee Kennedy, you were suggesting potentially that interest rate, like an interest on top of the due balance.
Yeah, and maybe deferred interest. So it's, get the first payment in And then from there on out, crank it
Okay.
up.
All right. Thank you, Trustee Kennedy. Trustee Jocelyn, do I see your finger ready to go?
Sure. You know, I appreciate where Trustee Kennedy and Mayor Pro Tem Miller are coming from. I have a young family myself, and I've been through the process. So, oh yeah, I have another one due in March. That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. That's public now. You're welcome, honey.
It's on record.
It's a boy. Yeah. So I can relate. But at the same time, I want to make sure that we're protecting the town. I'd like to see something up front. You know, I don't love stretching it out. I feel like those later years get riskier and riskier. But at the same time, I want to set them up for success and make sure that they're successful as soon as the doors open. We saw a lot of support from the community over the years. And I feel confident that, you know, this is something that the town as a whole, the majority would support us figuring out a way to make it work without putting our capital infrastructure at risk. But you know, that's a balance. I think that we ultimately need to figure out, is that just a CPI adjustment year over year? Is it 10% up front? I don't know. I'm no expert in that, but I do know that we do need to protect ourselves, and at the same time as we're making this partnership with Teens Inc. You know, grow and foster that relationship, I think is important. So what does that balance look like? I'm still kind of ironing it out, but I will say maybe it's more on the conservative side as to what I've heard as being proposed so far.
So Trustee Giblin had asked the question of like a 3-year plan. Is that where you're feeling
Yeah,
more
I'm
comfortable?
feeling more comfortable with the less years, but at the same time, you know, I feel like, I think if we saw something up front, maybe then we can extend it further. I don't know.
Okay.
That's where I'm at right now.
Okay. Groovy.
Sure.
Anybody on this side of the aisle?
Okay. I got some things written. So I want this for sure. We need this. There's no question. I mean, it's undeniable. We need it. I fully personally support the need for it and that we want it. I definitely, for the last couple of years, Stephen, the conversations I've had with you is I don't want to depend on these freaking PIFs. You got to pay them. And I think when it ended up going to a vote that delayed things, that was both unfortunate and fortunate, because 72% of the population voted for it. So there's great support, but 72% I don't think voted to pay for it. And so that's where I think if it was on the docket, you know, and would you have paid for the PIF fees? I don't know where that number, I think you probably still would have had the majority, but folks, I have great concerns about people paying for it. There's people on fixed incomes. I know a retired fella here who's having to move out to Eastern Colorado already just because taxes keep going up. He's on Social Security. So this would be another potentially X a year for water. And I think no matter what's going to happen, you're going to get blamed for the rates going up if you don't pay 100%, which isn't totally your fault, but you're going to get blamed if you don't pay all of it. And you might get blamed if you do, for that matter. But I think for me, having some money down, I mean, whatever, you can come back with some options, but having at least 10%, or, I was thinking, we 50,000, 60,000 something, but even 10% is 36,000, but then shorten the years. If we did 36,000 and, down over the next couple months, to open, get the C of O, and then 108,000 years after that. That's 3 years. You'd be paid by 2029. You know, so you'd have 36 now, and 27, 8, and 9, you'd have 108. That would be, you know, paying by 2029. To pay by 2030, you would be it would be what, 324 divided by 4 would be 81. So 81,000 a year. You know, so it's just I do think money down is key, and I think shortening it, I like 3 years. I think it's going to be a bit of a PR thing you're going to have to deal with, because people are going to, I mean, most people are going to be psyched to have it. Tons of people personally are going to benefit from it with their kids in it, but I think you're going to get blamed for the rate increase, which is going to happen whether you pay it all or not. So that's kind of where I sit.
Thanks, Trustee Giblin.
So I guess when this first came up and I heard about it the last meeting, I thought this was going to be a really easy decision, because we don't flex on our PIF fees. It's required. We have to support ourselves. My water bill is ridiculous. Like, it's like half my tax bill on my house. And so, you know, and I don't want to pay more on my water. I'm like, no, this is totally a no-brainer. We're not going to pay for it. We don't do that. But it turns out we do that. We have a history of doing that. It's not going to be Teens Inc.'s fault entirely on that pay rate. If town wants to blame anybody, it would have to come to us. And because we've been allowing this to happen over and over and over again. And this is actually the best deal we've seen. We did it for Wild Bear at, like, as I understand it, like 100% waiver. We did it for the county development at like a 50% waiver. And we did it for a climbing gym that I don't even know what the deal was there. And so when I realized all those things, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, so we're going to actually draw the line on something that's actually going to keep families in town versus leaving, and it actually shows that it's happened. And we're going to do it on a year when we're losing massive federal support. And so it all of a sudden got more complicated and changed my view on it entirely. But I think that there's two parts of this. One is what we do right now, and the other is we got to stop doing this. It's not a good way to do business, because, like, it's close. I don't know if we're going to be able to pull it off to stay in this town because of the expense of living here. So I'm one of those people that might not make it. And so I think that, you know, this needs to go with a little bit of public outreach, that if this is the case, if there is a pushback from the community on that Teens Inc. is responsible for our water bill increase, that is absolutely not the case. You know, I mean, if you factor this over time, I mean, this dealing that we've been doing is a major factor. And so, but I think this is not the one to draw that line on and say we're not going to do it. So I am in support of coming up with some sort of agreement. I think we should push it as close as we can, like we've been saying, but I think it should be more than, you know, a couple tens of thousands up front. I think we should try to get it so that the town, because we were counting on this, was money coming in. We're looking at massive increases or, you know, expenditures right away. I think more just a simple, like, 4 payments over 4 years. First one due this year, or if it has to be 5, that's fine. I'd like to, you know, I'm not the expert there on those things, but yeah, I have two, I mean, I'm really frustrated that we have made those deals. And this is not the one to get strict on. We need to make this happen for them and for the families here. And it's a bummer. I mean, the water bill thing is a major problem, and it's going to go up. And it's like, I mean, I sit there and look at it every single time. It's real for my family. And I got 2 kids in college right now, you know, it's like, really, now I'm going to have an increased water bill on top of that, you know? So I feel it acutely, but let's do it. And so I guess, I don't know what the next step is, but I'm in support of figuring out a plan for them.
Okay. And to clarify, you had said reduced, but then you said 4. And so, like, somewhere 3 or 4 years.
I'm not too worried about that part. And I think that some collateral of some sort, if that can be arranged, would be good to cover us a bit.
Yeah, let me just get nods going around. Like, what's the temperature and the feel on collateral? Yes.
I feel like, I mean, in concept, collateral is good. I don't know what we'd actually do with it if they missed a payment. Like, are we really going to sell a building because they missed an $80,000 payment? Like, it just seems a little bit unlikely. I mean, if something were to happen where they don't make any payments and 10 years goes by and we're like, okay, now we're in a bad spot and we have to pay for a $7 million, upgrade to the sewer system, then yeah, maybe we'll sell a building.
That's more what I would think we're thinking.
Right,
Not
but-
like if you miss it by a day, you can leave have to sell the building.
Yeah, or even, miss it by a month or a year, like it just seems, not like the right answer, but in concept, it does seem like we should have some collateral, but I don't see any practical use for
I
it.
guess the reason I think it would be important is because I mean, I totally trust Steven and the crew, but the problem is that tragedies happen and communities I mean, town has to actually try to think in terms of being resilient through those things. And so if, God forbid, Steven gets run over by a truck and there's massive funding cuts to them and they can't do it, then we get nothing as a town and we are just, my water rates are up and we don't have a preschool.
And I think it states, I don't have the exact line, but like the terms would be worked in that it's like, yeah, it's not the next day. It's not even the next month after a missed payment. It's a conversation, but that we still have a protection in place is my understanding. Mr. Jocelyn?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I think it's wise for us to plan for worst case scenarios. And, I was kind of hoping to shorten it 10% and our risk is lower, but I think you're right. I think that if we draw it out, I'd be willing to flex on the years and things if there's collateral at play. And again, I'm not trying to make things hard for them, but at the same time, we've got to protect ourselves.
What would the collateral be though? If they're gonna sell First Street and they've got Teens Inc. down that, that they use and inhabit, and they got the preschool, like what collateral are you talking about? Like the dump trucks for the water? I mean, pickup trucks, I mean.
I was just about to ask or make this a clarifying point. It would likely be the existing preschool, correct?
The lease already, I'm fairly certain the lease says that if they were to not meet the terms of the lease, then the town gets the building anyway.
Right, but that's the terms of the lease. This is something separate for the
I
pit
guess I'm
fees.
saying, I'm not sure that it would, in that situation, you might be in the same situation.
It might be the same
You
situation.
might have the same situation of default on a lease as well as a missed collateral payment. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not saying there's a way to tie those two things together. I'm just saying, I don't think the practical reality is there's not going to be a security that you can put on this loan that really secures your position. I don't think. I think it's really is a trust-based, relational-based situation here.
All right, well, let's scratch that then. I'm okay with that, but I think we got.
Although, like you said, if some tragic thing happens and, something that nobody expects and all of a sudden there's no child care center and there's, no money and there, then all we're left with is a building that nobody wants to use, like, then yeah, we should be able to sell it.
Hold on, I see something brewing.
We
Go.
were just, the other thing that could happen is you could ask Teens Inc. what they could do to securitize.
Secure the collateral. Yeah, we don't know enough. Real quick, Trustee Kennedy, would you be comfortable with also exploring a collateral?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I'm also not sure what the collateral could actually mean in the long run. I do think these guys are incredibly good at finding money and grants. Let's see if they can do that and get this paid off sooner than later. I would trust that they would be able to do that if they were pushed to do it quicker than otherwise.
And again, this isn't an issue if the $1 million comes through, right?
Exactly.
Well, that's what I wanted to touch on. Is there something that we can do that says if you get the $1 million, you have to pay now?
I heard a yes from that corner of the room.
And that's the important corner.
Yeah.
So
I know the rest of this is.
That makes me happy.
Okay. So if I were to kind of pull it together, it looks like we are comfortable. And yeah, and my own perspective is I've wanted childcare from the beginning. This is a huge piece for me, having been a young mother. I know the implications of what it means to not have childcare, especially women in the workplace. And so this has always been a huge thing. And we need to protect ourselves. So I am also very comfortable with exploring a reduced amount. Like we have the first, like we get paid off first, for the 1 million. And I'm also interested to hear Teens Inc.'s ideas around that collateral. And would love for it to come back to us potentially at the next meeting. Yes, Mr. Bliss.
Tell me if this is in the weeds, but do you want to run 2 scenarios with our rate consultant with as is and this agreement, or do you want to just have one with the agreement? Just need to provide direction for the next meeting.
What would you recommend?
It's whatever. That would be up to you. We just need to be able to give direction to the consultant.
We need to talk, I think, to teens and figure out what this agreement looks like. This work that Andrew's talking about needs to happen almost simultaneously. So if you could if you give us direction, just that if it seems prudent to run that extra model, like we could do that, I think that would be good.
I think so. I mean, I'm interested to know the impacts so that we'll have to speak to the accountability of those impacts.
And your, the suggestion would be if we spread this out over five equal payments with the first one starting 2026, what would the impact be? Or what would the impact be if we just forgave the whole thing?